Chapter 1919. 1919 on the Godslayer. A world of yellow sand was formed. An incomparably huge pyramid stood in the center of this world. The pyramid was 10,000 meters tall and emitted an earthen yellow divine light. In the sky above the pyramid, a woman emitting divine light stood at the top. She had a fiery figure and held a cloth in her hand. This was the weapon of the pyramid gods, the shroud. At this moment, the Yaman god's body was filled with rage and killing intent. Behind him, the yellow sand condensed into 3 tornadoes, emitting a terrifying pressure. This was the power of a god. This scene shocked everyone. Even the gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace and the other factions noticed the commotion. The gods looked over, their eyes filled with shock. How terrifying! When will I be able to become a god? If I don't become a god, I will still be an ant. In front of a god, we are as weak as ants. Everyone looked at the Yaman god who had brought an entire world with him. Their faces were filled with awe. You actually dared to kill my son. How would a mortal like you dare? I will suppress you in the pyramid. I will refine you and your family into mummies. The god of Yaman stared at Wang Xian from afar and roared sternly. As she roared, the yellow sand around her could feel her anger boiling like boiling water. Clumps of yellow sand began to condense. A human-shaped monster formed and pounced towards Wang Xian. The terrifying aura and the scene that blotted out the sky caused everyone within a 100-kilometer radius to tremble. Oh my god, is this the result of angering a god? This is something that the Dragon King can withstand? This is not something that a human can withstand. At this moment, when God Yaman was suppressing the entire space, the group of middle-aged elders in front of the live broadcast could feel this suffocating and invincible aura even though they were separated by the screen. Their hearts were somewhat shaken. In front of this power, could the Dragon King withstand it? Dragon King, he had yet to become a god. Suppress me? Haha. At this moment, Wang Xian looked at the Yaman god who was trying to judge him from above. A violent expression appeared on his face. Your son has ordered people to harm my people. Even if you don't come looking for me, I will go and kill you. He laughed maniacally. The aura on his body began to rise. An invincible force gathered as he stared coldly at Yaman. Wang Xian opened his mouth slightly and the 5-elemental millstone flew out slowly and enlarged. Roar. The humanoid monster formed from yellow sand let out a violent roar. Bang! 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 The 5-elemental millstone turned into 100 meters in size and crashed into it directly, crushing it. Buzz! After the 5-elemental millstone crushed the humanoid creature formed from yellow sand, it flew to the sky above Wang Xian and enlarged again instantly. The 5 elements millstone, which was 50 kilometers long, covered the entire sky. The entire sky above Mount Hua was completely covered. The entire world instantly turned dark. Buzz! Wang Xian stared at the Yaman god with a cold expression. He waved his hands gently. Roar! 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 The 5 elements divine dragons roared from the top of the 5 elements millstone. The incomparably large 5 elements millstone spun, emitting an aura of destruction as it directly attacked the Yaman god. What? The Yaman god felt the terrifying pressure coming from the 5 elements millstone, and her expression instantly changed. Her face, which was filled with judgment and anger, revealed a grave expression. Golden spear! She shouted angrily and waved her hand. The earthy yellow energy in a 100-kilometer radius instantly condensed into a long spear that was more than 10 kilometers long. The long spear seemed to be able to shoot down the sun in the sky and directly collided with the 5 elements millstone. My god, what's the situation now? The strength of the Dragon King, this. Is he competing with the gods? The Dragon King is a native of Earth, but he can actually compete with the gods of the pyramids. Some people say that the gods are the rulers, and those favored sons of heaven are the main characters. Now, what is the Dragon King? This is fighting against the gods. At this moment, when everyone saw the Dragon King fighting against the gods, everyone on Earth was in an uproar. The Dragon King was a person from Earth, but he actually had the strength to fight against the descending gods. On Earth, were there really people who could fight against the gods? Whang! The sound of the golden spear colliding with the five elements millstone rang out. The yellow sand that filled the sky trembled and actually fell down bit by bit. The golden spear began to crumble and the five elements millstone continued to press down on Yaman. How is this possible? You're just a mortal. You clearly didn't ignite the divine fire. How can you be so strong? A shocked voice came out from Yaman's mouth. She widened her eyes and stared at the gigantic five elements millstone. Especially the five divine dragons above the five elements millstone. They were emitting energy that made her heart palpitate. Obliteration, river of time. Wang Xian waved his arm and the five elements millstone spun. A river appeared out of thin air and flowed towards the western horizon. In the grey river of annihilation, there were many cyan swordfish. This was the weapon in the sharp sword treasure box that Tianfeng's Heaven's Pride had absorbed in the five elements millstone. The level of that treasure was close to the godly state. After being absorbed by the five elements millstone, it could be released now. The difference was that the sharp swords had transformed into the swordfish in the river of annihilation. Even if she could withstand the river of time, she would probably die in the mouth of the swordfish. When the river of time appeared, everyone below could see a grey river appearing in the sky. The river of time was more than 100 kilometers long and more than 10 kilometers wide, and there were ferocious green swordfish swimming in it. The Dragon King is definitely not a mortal. This kind of attack can only be unleashed by a godly state expert, definitely. Dragon King, who is it? Everyone below was trembling. Regardless of whether it was in terms of power or range, the Dragon King's attack was not inferior to Yaman God's. In fact, from the very beginning, the Dragon King had suppressed Yaman God. The Shroud of God will bury all gods. Yaman's pupils constricted slightly when she saw the long river sweeping towards her. She waved the shroud in her hand and it turned into a khaki-colored cloth that was dozens of kilometers long. The cloth was filled with an aura of death. Crash! When the Shroud of God collided with the river of time, it produced a sound like a torrent. A white strip that was dozens of kilometers long was churning in the river that was hundreds of kilometers long. This scene was shocking. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, the green swordfish in the river suddenly leaped up and pierced through the god's shroud. Their incomparably sharp swords pierced through the shroud. However, the place where the shroud had been pierced through recovered at a terrifying speed. This was a divine weapon, a true divine weapon. Chapter 1920. 1920 God Slayer. Yaman God, one of the 6 great gods of the pyramid. For a woman to be able to become a god, not only did she possess great talent, but she also had a powerful background. The shroud in her hand was a precious treasure given to her by her fallen husband. A divine artifact. Even the weakest divine artifact was able to fight against a god who had ignited a wisp of divine fire. If a god had a powerful divine artifact, as long as the difference in the divine kingdom wasn't too great, he could even fight against 2 experts of the same level. Divine artifacts possessed intelligence, just like the star grass of a flower. A god with a wisp of divine fire could be killed by the star grass if he wasn't careful. While divine artifacts possessed powerful offensive power, they also possessed powerful recovery abilities. It was no different from a real god. Hua lolo. The shroud stirred the 5 elements millstone and released the river of time, and the power of the destruction of the 5 elements quickly disappeared. That is a divine weapon, the divine weapon of Yaman God. The divine weapon is extremely powerful and has a powerful spiritual intelligence. Not everyone can get it. A god, other than a powerful divine kingdom, has a divine weapon as his strongest trump card. With a divine weapon, he can easily defeat experts of the same realm. At this moment, in the audience stands below the peak of Mount Hua, and in front of the live broadcast, everyone looked at the vast shroud and the river of time with shock on their faces. They almost knelt down to watch the battle. With a casual strike, the shroud covered an area of a kilometer. If the 2 of them hadn't flown tens of thousands of meters into the sky, perhaps the entire Mount Hua would have been turned into ashes. At the same time, the power of the shroud made everyone look surprised. Yaman's realm is not high, but she has a divine weapon. In the divine realm of a wisp of divine fire, she can be considered a powerhouse. At this moment, the battle of the divine realm attracted the attention of all the gods of the four major forces. The gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace, who were the closest, looked at the battle and a figure said, "That Dragon King is very strange. He clearly didn't ignite the divine fire, but he can have the combat power of a god and fight above his level. That huge millstone is not simple. It's a divine weapon. I really didn't expect him to have a divine weapon. Even I am a little tempted." So what if he is tempted? A divine weapon will choose its owner. With your strength, you still can't suppress this divine weapon. This big millstone is not simple. There's already an existence on Earth that's comparable to a god. Before long, there might be more and more. Even we have to be careful. In the sky above the Lingxiao treasured palace, figures were talking. Do you guys think that this Dragon King is Yaman's match? Probably not. After all, he didn't ignite the divine fire. He relied on the divine weapon to have such strength. If he gets close to Yaman, he'll die a terrible death. The two gods from the soaring heavens treasure palace expressed their opinions. Divine weapon? Wang Xian looked at the shroud with a glimmer in his eyes. The five elements millstone couldn't keep up with his current speed. Even so, the 5 dragon balls on the 5 elements millstone had already reached the godly state. The entire 5 elements millstone could rival the weakest 5 divine weapons. This shroud was not a very strong divine weapon. I have to say that you have exceeded my expectations. You actually have a divine weapon. However, even if you have a divine weapon, I will still refine you into a mummy and let you enjoy the pain of millions of years. Kill my Yaman's son. I will make you suffer so much that you wish you were dead. Yaman stared at Wang Xian and roared furiously. Her son was killed and she was burning with rage. Oh! The millstone of the Dragon King is actually a divine weapon? No wonder he can fight against the gods. Is a divine weapon that awesome? He can actually fight against the gods. He wants me to have a divine weapon as well. When everyone heard Yaman's words, they were also astonished. They had a slight understanding of the fact that the Dragon King could fight against the gods without igniting the divine fire. Whoosh! At this moment, the shroud was like a huge wave. It emitted the burying power of the earth and attacked the 5 elements millstone directly. You are only slightly stronger than the sea god. Wang Xian looked at the shroud that was sweeping over and snorted coldly. 5 elements millstone, suppress. He shouted in a low voice. The 5 elements millstone spun and the energy that was extinguished filled the surroundings. The entire millstone attacked the shroud like a chainsaw. At the same time, Wang Xian's figure moved and attacked the Yaman deity directly. How dare you attack me? Yaman stared at Wang Xian's figure with a murderous gaze. Her face was filled with hostility. Go to hell. She waved her arm and soil spikes appeared in front of her palm. These soil spikes numbered in the thousands and covered an area of dozens of kilometers. Countless earth spikes attacked Wang Xian directly. Upon seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air again. It was so terrifying. This Dragon King rushing over is a little irrational. When the gods who were paying attention saw this scene, they shook their heads lightly. A mortal who did not ignite the divine fire was courting death by getting close to him without a divine weapon. Buzz. However, under everyone's shocked gaze, Wang Xian extended his right hand. His entire right palm instantly enlarged and became tens of kilometers in circumference. Bam! The dragon claw that was tens of kilometers in circumference was covered with craggy dragon scales. It looked indestructible. When the dragon claw grabbed onto the gigantic earth spike, the earth spike immediately collapsed. How is this possible? Yaman looked at the gigantic dragon claw and his expression changed drastically. He was filled with astonishment. The gods who were watching from all directions were also filled with astonishment. This claw. The gods from the Lingxiao treasured palace looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. It's just a god with a wisp of divine fire. Die. Wang Xian stared at the Yaman god. His eyes were filled with coldness. No. You're just a mortal. How can you possess such a terrifying physical body? The god of Yaman roared in disbelief. She tapped her feet lightly and the divine kingdom beneath her attacked Wang Xian directly. Around the dragon country, mummies wrapped in shrouds appeared one after another. There were tens of thousands of them. Each of the mummies was exuding immense strength. They were connected to the pyramids. Among the mummies, there were dozens of gigantic creatures wrapped in shrouds. The strength of the gods from the pyramid faction and their divine kingdom was related to these mummies. The more and stronger the mummies were, the stronger their divine kingdom would be. Boom! The pyramids brought tens of thousands of powerful mummies to meet Wang Xian's sharp claws. However, when the dragon claw collided with the pyramid, the entire pyramid was grabbed by the dragon claw. Earth Attribute Divine Kingdom, Perfect. Chapter 1921. 1921 God Slayer. Earth Attribute Divine Kingdom, Perfect. When Wang Xian's dragon claw grabbed hold of the divine kingdom, he commented lightly. Now, the upgrade of the dragon palace required a divine kingdom with 9 attributes. Now that the darkness, fire, and metal attributes had been gathered, adding this earth attribute, there were only 5 more to go. Boom! When Wang Xian's dragon claw grabbed hold of the divine kingdom, the entire divine kingdom trembled. As for the mummies around the divine kingdom, they died immediately. Even if they didn't die, there weren't any marks on the dragon claw. Now, Wang Xian's strength was comparable to a god with 3 wisps of divine fire. If he didn't want to test the strength of the 5 elements millstone today, he could have instantly killed Yaman. What? No. Yaman looked at his kingdom of God being grabbed. His body trembled violently and a hint of fear appeared in his eyes. How is this possible? He used that terrifying claw to grab the divine kingdom of the gods. Oh my God, is the Dragon King going against the heavens? Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this scene. They were filled with disbelief. The gods who were paying attention to this scene were also in shock. Retract. Wang Xian grabbed with his dragon claw and the entire divine kingdom began to transform. Screams of pain came from within the divine kingdom. The mummies and Yaman's subordinates inside the divine kingdom let out desperate screams. In the middle of Wang Xian's dragon claw, the shadow of the divine shadow dragon kingdom appeared and slowly swallowed the entire pyramid. Hualala. After the pyramid was absorbed by the divine shadow dragon kingdom, a large amount of blood slowly flowed out from the 9 heads of the 9 dragons in the dragon transformation pool at the location of the dragon palace. All the resources in the divine kingdom were channeled into the dragon palace. The moment the divine kingdom was destroyed, the Yaman god revealed a pained and shocked expression. The divine kingdom was an extremely important part of a god. Without the support of the divine kingdom, one couldn't be called a god. He was the source of power for a god. If the divine kingdom was destroyed, the combat strength of this god would be reduced by half or even more. Go down and see your son. Wang Xian revealed a cold expression on his face. He moved his body and attacked her. No, psych, save me. Yaman's face revealed a look of panic. He immediately cried out to the other gods in the pyramid for help. Oh no. Thousands of kilometers away, the gods in the pyramid who were watching the battle indifferently had a slight change of expression when they saw this scene. They had thought that Yaman could easily kill a mortal who had not ignited the divine fire. They did not even have the slightest bit of worry when they saw the other party's divine weapon. However, in just an instant, Yaman's divine kingdom was destroyed and even fell into danger. Dragon King, stop. A god of the pyramid faction roared and came from thousands of kilometers away, teleporting over. What is the Dragon King doing? Is he killing gods? The gods from the pyramid faction are here. Before the live broadcast, when everyone at the summit of Mount Hua looked at the extremely powerful Dragon King and heard the voice of another god from the pyramid, they opened their mouths slightly. The strength displayed by the Dragon King shocked all of them. Die. It was as if Wang Xian didn't hear that voice. The Yaman god that was locked onto by the dragon claw was clawing at her. Her divine kingdom was forced. Her face turned pale after being severely injured. She quickly dodged to the side. However, at this moment, their speed had already decreased by more than half. In the face of an attack from Wang Xian that was comparable to 3 wisps of divine fire god, they were completely defenseless. Crack, crack. The dragon claw covered Yaman. She looked at the destructive aura coming from the gigantic dragon claw and her face was filled with unwillingness and despair. No. The last sound was heard and the dragon claw was close. Boom. At this moment, a torrent was charging toward Wang Xian from the west. Above the torrent stood a majestic middle-aged man. Another god from the pyramid had arrived. Stop. The middle-aged man roared furiously as the torrent charged toward Wang Xian. Boom. Wang Xian waved his dragon claw and a stream of destructive energy charged toward him. The two streams of terrifying energy collided in the air and dissipated slowly. He looked at the middle-aged man coldly and absorbed Yaman's corpse into the dragon palace. Boom. The moment Yaman's corpse was absorbed, the entire world trembled. The world was wailing. You actually killed Yaman. The middle-aged man glared at Wang Xian with murderous intent and growled in a low voice. So what if I killed him? Wang Xian floated in the sky and stared at the god in the pyramid expressionlessly. Crash. At this moment, the shroud let out a mournful cry when it saw its master being killed in the sky. Without the support of the Yaman divine kingdom, the strength of the shroud had been reduced by a lot. Buzz. The 5 elements millstone spun and grey chains wrapped around the shroud and slowly pressed down on it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, majestic figures flew over from the western horizon. 2 figures were enveloped by earthy yellow energy. Waves of powerful aura locked onto Wang Xian. The 5 gods of the pyramid had arrived. Hiss. The Dragon King has killed a god. All the gods of the pyramid faction have arrived. Oh my god, are they going to besiege the Dragon King? If the other 5 gods of the pyramid attack the Dragon King will probably die as well. Look, the Dragon King is so calm. Even when facing the 5 gods of the pyramid faction, his expression doesn't change at all. At this moment, when God Yaman was killed by the Dragon King and when all the gods of the pyramid arrived, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at the incomparably powerful Dragon King, and their hearts were incomparably shocked. Even when facing 5 gods, he still said, so what if I kill him? One person facing 5 gods, not moving at all. So strong, he actually killed Yaman so forcefully. His strength should be comparable to 2 wisps of divine fire gods. This. A mortal who hasn't ignited divine fire, how can he be so strong? Could it be that he has some kind of bloodline or a strong physique? When all the gods who were watching the scene saw this scene, they were also shocked in their heart. In the sky above the peak of Mount Hua, the atmosphere instantly became heavy. The mournful cries of heaven and earth continued to reverberate in the surrounding area for tens of thousands of miles. The 5 gods from the pyramid faction stared at Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at them indifferently. Among the 5 gods, the strongest one ignited 3 wisps of divine fire. He wasn't afraid at all. In fact, with the strength of the Dragon Palace, he could even destroy the 5 gods of the pyramid. Roar. At this moment, a dragon's roar was heard from the north. Ha ha ha, dragon soul, dragon soul. A maniacal laughter was heard, causing the solemn atmosphere to be slightly stunned. In the north, the shadow of a dragon soul shot straight into the sky. In the middle of the dragon soul stood a young man who exuded darkness and evil. Hey, dragon soul? The 5 pyramid gods were attracted by the dragon soul, and their eyes were burning. I'll kill him in the future. A middle-aged figure trembled and charged towards the dragon soul. The eyes of the other pyramid gods flickered as they flew towards the dragon soul. Compared to taking revenge for Yaman, who they didn't have a deep relationship with, the dragon soul was more important in their hearts. Furthermore, the Dragon King's strength should be comparable to a god with 2 wisps of divine fire, and he also had a divine weapon. It would not be so easy to kill him. As for avenging Yaman, they would talk about it when there was a chance. Chapter 1922. 1922 Dragon King, son of heaven of the true dragon? Go! Dragon soul. In the sky above the peak of Mount Hua, everyone was stunned when they saw the 5 gods of the pyramid leave and teleport towards the location of the dragon soul. They left just like that. They actually didn't take revenge for that Yaman god. The Dragon King's strength isn't weak to begin with, and he even has a divine weapon. Perhaps they don't want to fight to the death. If one of them is taken away, or if they are heavily injured, it's not worth it at all. Seeing the 5 gods leave, everyone turned to look at the figure floating in the sky. The once invincible Dragon King was now the Godslayer Dragon King. After today, the Dragon King's fame would shake the entire world. In fact, the Dragon King could even be compared to those top gods. Oh! The dragon soul actually appeared, and it seems to have been obtained by someone. The pyramid's factions really aren't united. Their comrades died, yet they still don't help take revenge. Aren't the pyramid's factions like this to begin with? Each fighting for their own to form a tribe of gods. Speaking of which, we are all like this. In the sky above the Lingxiao treasured palace, a few figures were conversing. One of the women smiled faintly and coldly. When her voice fell, the other figures did not say a word. The topic of conversation was immediately terminated. The people who had transmigrated to this place were all here for a great opportunity. Although they all belonged to the skyscraping treasured palace, they were not as united as they had imagined. Especially a few years ago, when the various large god countries were born, they had a huge dispute over the treasures within. If it were not for the people above them restraining them, they might have already started fighting. Everyone, I'm going down to take a look. Maybe I can obtain the dragon soul, an old man said indifferently, and his figure disappeared instantly. The other few figures followed closely behind and disappeared instantly. At this moment, Wang Xian, who was standing in the sky above the divine mountain Hua Mountain, swept a cold glance at the 5 gods who had left the pyramid. Wang Xian didn't have the slightest fear towards the 5 gods. If he was not afraid that the entire earth would be in great danger if they really started fighting, Wang Xian might have called Ao Xingmu, Ao Qitian, and the rest over. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, they could still destroy the power of the gods, the pyramid. They could also obtain huge resources for the Dragon Palace and nurture a few gods. However, Wang Xian gave it some thought and decided to give up. The current strength of the Dragon Palace was not enough to completely crush the pyramid. If they were to fight, even if they could not destroy the current earth, at least half of the earth would be destroyed. After all, the earth was his home. He could not destroy the earth just because of the resources. Kill me in the future. In the future, it is not certain who will be destroyed. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he scanned his surroundings indifferently. With a move, he disappeared. His figure appeared above the city that was 100 kilometers away. He took out the god-striking twigs and quietly sensed the figures and auras of the 2 little girls. He wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't search the entire area. If there were no figures of the 2 little girls within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there was only one possibility. The memories of the 2 little girls had completely awakened. It was possible that they had something to do. Wang Xian comforted himself like this. Phew, they've left. They've all left. That Dragon King is really terrifying and strong. I found some information about the Dragon King on the internet. I asked my father and the rest, and he said that all of these were true. Fuck, the Dragon King once suppressed the entire era. He's indeed stronger. I just heard from my grandfather that the Dragon King is simply heaven-defying. He's too awesome. Oh right, do you remember when the gods descended, the Sea King once said something about the Dragon King? He was just an ant. However, he destroyed the Dragon King's dragon palace. Now, the sea god was killed half a year ago. It's terrifying to think about it. Even the 5 gods of the pyramid are slightly afraid of the Dragon King. This is too heaven-defying. Do you think that the sea god was killed by the Dragon King? There is an 80% chance that the sea god is also a god who lit a wisp of divine fire. He is no match for the Dragon King at all. When the 5 gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace left and when Wang Xian left, the entire world was in an uproar. This battle between the gods was recorded completely. It even erupted under the attention of more than 1 billion people. The Dragon King's strength and invincibility shocked many people. Especially the disciples of the 4 major forces. They knew how powerful the gods were, and even how difficult it was to break through to become a god. However, a native of Earth actually broke through to become a god. It was hard to imagine, And those young people who learned about the Dragon King's deeds from their elders were all dumbfounded. The Dragon King had shocked the entire world. I didn't expect Master to be so powerful. Xiao Ran's eyes were filled with shock as he watched his master disappear. Perhaps, he's even stronger than you think. Ji Lingfei thought of Ao Xingmu, Ao Chitian, and Ao Jian in the villa in River City, and her eyes sparkled. She didn't understand how a native of Earth could have such terrifying strength and subordinate. Haha, the dragon soul belongs to me. You bunch of trash are dreaming if you want to take it away from me. While the entire world was shocked by the appearance of the Dragon King and the killing of the gods, the 9 dragons were the closest to Mount Hua. Roar. A youth whose entire body was shrouded in darkness roared with a ferocious and excited face. The entire dragon soul was dyed by the darkness on his body. He stared at the 5 figures in front of him. There was not the slightest bit of worry or fear on his face. Instead, it was filled with unbridled arrogance. He even directly called them trash. When the 5 gods of the pyramid faction heard this young man's address, their expressions instantly darkened. Waves of killing intent gathered on their bodies. HMPH. A god who once died has yet to completely recover his strength. How dare he be so arrogant? Go to hell. A god's eyes were filled with killing intent. With a wave of his arm, a cage that was 10 kilometers wide appeared around the young man, sealing him completely. Keek keek. Do you know what it means to be a dragon whose head is nowhere to be seen? I am the son of the true dragon. I will remember you. The next time I meet you, I will personally kill you. The young man who was emitting a bloody and terrifying aura roared. The dragon soul entered his body and disappeared. Oh! The instant the young man disappeared, the expressions of the 5 gods from the pyramid became ugly. The Lingxiao treasure hall god who was rushing over also had a dark expression. His eyes were shining as he stopped. Even the eternal god Lord fell on this planet. More and more of the fallen gods have obtained a chance to survive. Even we have to be careful of their method. That young man just now is somewhat like the enemy of humanity in that great battle. Chapter 1923. 1923 Dragon King, the son of heaven of the true dragon. Earth is becoming more and more unsafe. In the sky, the gods in the Lingxiao palace looked at the disappearing dragon soul and the young figure with complicated expressions. There were already natives on Earth who had killed gods, and the gods who had fallen had been resurrected because of all sorts of great opportunities. Some of those gods who had fallen back then might have the strength of an eternal god lord. Once such existences awakened their memories, their cultivation speed would be extremely terrifying. In fact, when they ignited a wisp of divine fire, they would be able to kill those of a higher level. There was also that person who had obtained the great opportunity to obtain the dragon soul. The divine dragon had been a peak existence in the entire universe since ancient times. Even if it wasn't a pure divine dragon bloodline, it was still incomparably terrifying. The revived ancient gods and the true dragon's son of heaven. The gods that had descended this time weren't very strong amongst the gods. This was because the top-tier gods didn't want to take the risk of descending here. And with their strength, they might not be a match for the stronger ancient gods in a few years. Apart from the ancient gods, the evil creatures in the dark god countries gave them a headache. We still have 4.5 years before we can bring Earth back to the boundless star field. We have to be more vigilant in these 4.5 years. In addition, report the situation on Earth to the higher-ups. Let's see what the higher-ups in the boundless star field say. A figure said indifferently, and then disappeared in an instant. The other gods also nodded silently and disappeared. Below them, the 5 gods of the pyramid also disappeared with ugly expressions. Damn it, the dragon soul was actually obtained by that guy. At this moment, 10,000 meters underground, the earthen grandson and the young master of the Protoss looked up with extremely ugly expressions. Their faces were ashen. Just now, it seemed like a god died from the wailing of heaven and earth. It seems like we have to ignite the divine fire first and advance to God. As he spoke, his body moved and disappeared. No, there's still nothing here. Did the flower and Seir awaken completely, or did the stargrass take them away? In the sky above a city around Mount Hua, Wang Xian sensed the auras of the two girls and shook his head helplessly. Let's go. Wang Xian didn't continue searching. The area of Earth had increased by several times. There were all kinds of ancient lands. If he wanted to find the two of them, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. He did not continue his search. Whether they would meet again in the future would depend on fate. Wang Xian moved and teleported towards Jiang City. At the same time, at the peak of Mount Hua, the Dragon King had destroyed the School of Nine Gates with a single hand. As a result, the competition of the 5 great academies had turned into the competition of the 4 great academies. The first round of the competition of the 4 great academies was almost ruined. The following competition of the 4 great academies continued. However, the attention was obviously not as great as it was at the beginning. The Dragon King's return had destroyed the Nine Gates Academy and killed a god in the pyramid, causing the entire world to boil. The internet was filled with discussions about the Dragon King. In a short period of time, all of the Dragon King's deeds had been dug up. Many of them had even been greatly exaggerated. When they saw that the Dragon King had once suppressed an ERA and established the Undersea Dragon Palace for all the experts to worship, the hearts of the youths and the younger generation trembled slightly. This caused many people to be filled with reverence and respect for the Dragon King. The Dragon King dominated the age of Vipralopa. After the recovery of spiritual energy, he was able to kill a god. I really want to know what kind of opportunity the Dragon King had obtained to make him so powerful. When the sea god descended, he once destroyed the Dragon Palace with one palm. Were the members of the Dragon Palace killed? Was the sea god killed by the Dragon King? According to my guess, 80% of the sea god was killed by the Dragon King. The gods never killed each other. It must be the Dragon King. So far on Earth, only the Dragon King can kill gods. The founder of the Dragon Gate Academy, Xiao Ran, seems to be the disciple of the Dragon King. No wonder Xiao Ran could rise so quickly. The internet was filled with topics about the Dragon King. Thinking about the Yaman god who had been killed today, some people thought of the sea god who had fallen half a year ago, and thought of the dean of the Dragon Gate Academy, Xiao Ran. A person who could kill a god on Earth also filled many people on Earth with hope. Perhaps one day, they would be able to reach the level of the Dragon King. While the matter of the Dragon King was boiling over, there was another matter that caused a huge sensation. The dragon soul of the land of the 9 dragons beside Mount Hua had been obtained by someone. The person who obtained it was a god who had been resurrected in the ancient war. According to rumors, the person who obtained the dragon soul was still extremely arrogant when facing the 5 gods of the pyramid. He did not take them seriously at all. Did the Dragon King also obtain a dragon soul? You must know that the Dragon King was able to transform into an extremely majestic divine dragon back then. When the dragon soul incident erupted, someone suddenly asked. When everyone saw this question, they could not help but be slightly stunned. During the Age of Chaos, the Dragon King was able to transform into a divine dragon to fight. Was it because the Dragon King obtained the dragon soul? This conjecture was immediately confirmed by many people. There were even television stations that speculated that when the Dragon King rose to power, it was very likely because of the dragon soul. The news that the Dragon King had obtained the dragon soul quickly spread across the entire internet. Even the disciples of the 4 great forces and even the gods slowly nodded when they saw this conjecture. On Earth, there might not be 9 dragon souls, but 10. However, the first dragon soul had already been fused by the Dragon King. Because of the fusion of 1 dragon soul, Earth would have 1 more Dragon King. And the Dragon King was the first true dragon son of heaven. That Dragon King should have obtained the dragon soul. Legend has it that the divine dragon can easily fight above his level. This is also the reason why he was able to kill Yaman without igniting the divine fire. Some of the gods looked at the information one by one, and their eyes lit up. Due to special reasons, the Dragon King had obtained the dragon soul during the Age of Chaos, allowing him to rise up in power. When this guess was accepted by many people, everyone frantically rushed into the land of the 9 dragons. Currently, there were only 7 out of the 9 dragon souls left. However, if one could obtain the dragon soul, one would be able to reach the realm of the Dragon King. This was simply reaching the heavens in one step. Not to mention the people on earth, even the disciples of the four great factions hadn't paid much attention to this matter. Now, they had stepped into the land of the 9 dragons and wanted to become the true dragon's son of heaven. As long as one could obtain a dragon soul, they would have the strength to slaughter a god in the future. However, what the billions of people didn't know was that the so-called dragon soul was just a huge net. All the dragon soul will become a lamb to be slaughtered. Chapter 1924. 1924. The era of the gods began in 1924. Wow, sister, look. The Earth's crust had changed. It was now the largest forest on Earth, under the Amazon rainforest. In a corner of the huge Amazon rainforest, a voice suddenly sounded from an extremely mysterious undersea tree. It was like a dream world. There were trees and flowers everywhere, covering an area of more than 100 kilometers. The entire underwater world was emitting boundless vitality. A little girl was sitting on a chair made of tree branches. She was holding a computer in her hand, and her legs were shaking non-stop. What's wrong, sister? Not far away, a 1.4-meter-tall girl was knitting something. She raised her head and looked at the girl, who cried out in surprise. Come and take a look. That bad guy is looking for us. The 2 little girls from the undersea forest world were naturally Huara and Sia. Huara held the computer and pouted her little mouth as she came to Sia's side. She pointed at the information on it. Huh? Sia was slightly stunned when she saw the information on it. Her eyes sparkled and she was somewhat absent-minded. That bad guy actually killed a god in order to find us. Sister, should we go and find him? Huara looked at the invincible figure in the screen and said in a daze. Sia's expression changed as well. She was slightly touched. Before they died, they had lived for more than 1,000 years. They had their parents and brothers to take care of them. They had always lived in their parents' divine kingdom. After they became gods, they got involved in the world-destroying battle because they were too playful. In the end, they died. When they woke up, they were taken care of and doted on by that man. It could be said that other than their parents, he was the best person to them. He gave them heavenly marrow water to drink and all kinds of pills to eat as candy. In the past, only their parents would treat them so well. Should we go back and be his daughter? Sia scratched her green hair with a frown. Why don't we go back and call him little brother and father? Huara raised her eyebrows and said to Sia, little brother and father? What? What kind of name is that? Forget it. We'll cultivate as soon as possible. When we recover to the godly state, we'll have grown up. We'll look for him then. Sia gritted her teeth and said, all right then, I will go cultivate. Huara nodded and quietly put away the computer in her hand. She immediately headed towards the training grounds in the god realm. Sia looked at her sister and smiled slightly. It was really rare for her sister to take the initiative to cultivate. The 2 of them were twin sisters, and they were not ordinary twins. When one of them had some understanding and one of them improved, the other could also improve. If they cultivated together, the speed of their cultivation would be twice as fast. Their parents said that they were a rare homus body in the universe. I need to speed up the progress. At this moment, in the villa in Jiang City, Wang Xian was overlooking the ocean in front of him. It had been more than 10 days since Huara left. During these 10 days, Wang Xian suddenly felt bored. In the past, he didn't feel anything when there were 2 little girls around. Now, he felt like he had nothing to do. Looking at the information on the computer beside him, Wang Xian's eyes flickered. He couldn't afford to be so relaxed every day. It was time to accelerate his plan. In the past half a month, more than 1 billion people have poured into the land of the 9 dragons. Among them, there are more than 10 ancient gods who have fallen and resurrected. It's time to choose from them. Wang Xian mumbled and closed his eyes slightly. He began to select the so-called true dragon's son of heaven. Roar, 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 dragon soul. I have obtained the dragon soul. In the future, this world will be ruled by me. I will rule the world and roam the universe. True dragons are invincible. Ha ha ha. In the next few days, in the other land of the 7 dragons, more and more dragon souls were gradually obtained. Arrogant voices resounded throughout the world. The gods were filled with excitement because they had obtained the dragon souls. They were reincarnated gods, and they had huge resources. Now that they had obtained the dragon souls, they were confident that they could reach a higher realm. They even had the confidence to dominate the entire world. As more and more dragon souls were obtained, the world boiled with excitement, and more people fought for the other dragon souls. Many people even found gods in the land of the 9 dragons. However, none of the godly state experts had obtained dragon souls. A month later, when the last dragon soul let out a roar, the 9 dragon souls all belonged to someone. The entire world was shocked. From then on, the 9 true dragon sons of heaven were born and the powers of the world were reshuffled. The Dragon King was known as the head of the true dragon sons of heaven. Roar, roar, roar. One day a month later, a dragon roar sounded. Near a dark ancient land, a blurry black light covered tens of thousands of miles and a dark demonic dragon rose into the sky. A huge divine kingdom slowly appeared in the sky. Below the divine kingdom, a young man who was emitting a violent and bloody aura was holding up the divine kingdom. I am the son of the demon dragon. Today, I will ignite the divine fire and hold up the divine kingdom. Roar, roar, roar. I, the 10 dragons, will be the leader and the darkness will be the king. A voice filled with a domineering aura resounded through the world. In an instant, the entire earth shook, and everyone looked in that direction. The darkness boiled, the heaven and earth played music, and a god was born. Someone actually became a god, and it's the person who obtained the dragon soul. Oh my God! Is this becoming a god? Heaven and earth congratulates, and the world shakes. After the birth of the first god on earth, everyone was filled with shock. They all looked over and felt an urge to worship him. The majestic bearing that lifted the divine kingdom and the unrivaled domineering aura made everyone's heart palpitate. Even the Dragon King hasn't lit the divine fire yet. I didn't expect someone to become a god. It's really like a mountain is taller than a mountain. Do you think he's a match for the Dragon King? He has become a god, and is even the son of heaven of the true dragon. He should be stronger than the Dragon King, right? Everyone was talking about the newly born dark demon dragon god, their eyes filled with shock. The first god was born, lifting up the divine kingdom and shaking the world. You guys light up the divine fire and ascend to God. In the other 4 forces, the gods said to the figures in front of them. As the gods that descended after the heaven and earth changed, many fallen gods that had yet to awaken their memories were discovered and controlled by them. These fallen gods could be said to be their greatest gains. Now, when they saw someone ignite the divine fire to become a god, they also let the fallen gods ignite the divine fire once more. Boom, boom, boom. The heaven and earth cheered. In the next 10 or so days, one god after another was born, and their divine kingdoms were raised high up. Chapter 1925. 1925. The disciples of the Dragon Palace arrived in 1925. It's the 22nd time. In just 2 short months, 22 gods were born. Master, how did they cultivate? Ever since Master fed me those 2 fruits, I've been hunting a lot of demonic cores during this period of time. I thought that my strength had improved very quickly, but now, my strength has only reached level 7 demigod. Even that young master of the celestial race lit up the divine fire yesterday. In the villa in Jiang City, Xiao Ran stood beside Wang Xian with a bitter face and said to him, "You can't compare to them. They were once gods, but they died. Now that their memories have been restored, as long as they have sufficient resources, they will be able to recover very quickly, and with all the treasures on earth now, it's normal for them to light the divine fire." Wang Xian looked at Xiao Ran beside him and said to him calmly, "I was thinking of establishing a force, but I didn't expect that." Xiao Ran smiled bitterly, feeling a little defeated. "Even I haven't lit the divine fire yet, so don't be anxious." Wang Xian looked at Ji Lingfei beside him and smiled at her. Ji Lingfei knew that Wang Xian was observing her strength. Currently, her strength had already recovered to level 9 of the demigod realm. It would still be some time before her strength recovered. "Teacher, I received a piece of news." Suddenly, Ji Lingfei hesitated for a moment and said to Wang Xian, What news?" Wang Xian looked at her and asked. According to the information I received, the gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace are preparing to attack the ancient land of darkness and hunt the demonic beasts of the godly state to increase their strength. The demonic cores of demonic beasts of the godly state are a rare treasure for godly state experts. The demonic cores can greatly increase a person's strength. Ji Lingfei's eyes flickered. If you can obtain the demonic cores of demonic beasts, you might be able to ignite the divine fire. However, the ancient land of darkness will be very dangerous. Now, everyone knew that Xiao Ran was the Dragon King's disciple. Currently, Longmen Academy was the leader of the few major academies. The stronger the Dragon King was, the greater the benefits it would bring to Xiao Ran. Ji Lingfei also hoped that Wang Xian could ignite the divine fire as soon as possible. Attack the ancient lands of darkness? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Yes. Teacher, you can bring Xiao Ran and I to the ancient lands of darkness to hunt Yaoxia. If you can destroy the ancient lands of darkness, you will definitely be able to ignite the divine fire. Furthermore, according to the information I received, the strongest evil demon in the ancient land of darkness should not be stronger than the 3 wisps of divine fire. Ji Lingfei continued to speak to Wang Xian. A god with 3 wisps of divine fire, is there such a terrifying evil demon? Xiao Ran was slightly shocked, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Wang Xian looked at Ji Lingfei, and a look of deep thought appeared on his face. This news was obviously obtained from the Lingxiao treasured palace. It could be considered confidential information. He hesitated for a moment and didn't make a decision immediately. Xiao Ran and Ji Lingfei stayed here for a while before leaving. When they left the villa, Ji Lingfei frowned slowly. She had encountered some trouble recently. Lingfei, what's wrong? Is there something unhappy? Xiao Ran looked at her frowning face and asked with concern. I'm fine. Ji Lingfei smiled and shook her head. Let's go back to the academy. The second batch of students are starting to enroll now. There are a few good geniuses who want to join our academy. Now, should we start harvesting the spoils of war or go to the dark ancient land? Wang Xian watched Xiao Ran and the rest leave as he looked at the ancient land of darkness 100 kilometers away. In the past 2 months, more than 20 gods had been born. It was completely out of his expectations. Among these gods, 9 of them were the ones who had obtained the dragon souls. Today, he had already started to consider whether he should harvest the spoils of war and collect the 9 dragon souls. It was very easy for Wang Xian to collect them. In this way, he could obtain 9 clones in an instant, and they were all clones that ignited a wisp of divine fire. With the nourishment, each of these 9 clones would have the ability to fight 3 levels higher. Should I collect them now or wait? The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly. From his senses, these 9 true dragon sons of heaven were not simple. I should let them continue their cultivation. Wang Xian thought lightly. Chitian. He shouted softly at Ao Jian. Dragon King. Ao Chitian's figure immediately appeared at the side and bowed. Return to the Dragon Palace and call Ba Qi, Ao Qi, and the rest over. Also, bring 100 members of the Demon War Department over. Wang Xian ordered Ao Chitian. It's the Dragon King. Ao Chitian nodded respectfully and teleported away immediately. The news from Ji Lingfei should be correct. Since that's the case, let's go hunt down those demons and monsters to raise the strength of the Dragon Palace. Now that the gods on earth have risen, let's also gradually transfer the power of the Dragon Palace over. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. He had been here for 8 to 9 months. It was time for the disciples of the Dragon Palace to be gradually transferred over. Perhaps, before long, another Dragon Palace will be erected on the ocean and all the forces will come to pay their respect. Wang Xian looked at the ocean in front of him and slowly looked at the lofty palace in the sky. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Greetings, Dragon King. Half an hour later, Ao Chitian led Ba Qi, Ao Qi, and 100 members of the Demon War Department to the sky above the villa. They bowed respectfully to Wang Xian. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the members of the Dragon Palace and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. After the last time they destroyed the Yamen god, Ao Qi and Ba Qi had already reached the peak of the demigod realm. With their strength, they could definitely fight against a god with a wisp of divine fire. As for these 100 members of the Demon War Department, each of them had the cultivation level of a level 7 demigod. They were holding metal clubs at the peak of the demigod level, and their power was extraordinary. Even a demigod at level 8 could fight and even kill them. These hundreds of members of the Demon War Department were the best in the Dragon Palace. Get ready. There will be a battle tomorrow. Mo Qinglong, go and inform Xiao Ran. Tell them to get ready tomorrow. Wang Xian looked at the members of the Dragon Palace with satisfaction and transmitted his voice to Mo Qinglong. It's the Dragon King. Mo Qinglong replied immediately. It's time to have a good fight. Wang Xian stood at the edge of the villa and looked ahead. Behind him, Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, Ao Xing, Mu Ao Qi, and Ba Qi were standing quietly behind him. Behind them were more than 100 members of the Demon War Department. Along with Wang Xian, the power of 6 godly states would definitely shock all the forces if the world knew about it. Chapter 1926. 1926. The Invasion of the Ancient Lands of Darkness. Lingfei, just now, Elder Mo sent us a message. Master said that he's going to attack the Ancient Lands of Darkness tomorrow. He wants us to get ready. In a room not far away from Wang Xian's villa, Xiao Ran came to the top floor and spoke to Ji Lingfei. Oh, Master has decided to go. Ji Lingfei was slightly delighted as a smile appeared on her face. What's wrong, Lingfei? Why are you so happy that teacher is preparing to go to the Dark Ancient Land? The Dark Ancient Land is very dangerous. Xiao Ran saw Ji Lingfei's expression and was slightly surprised. Logically speaking, whether they went to the Dark Ancient Land or not did not have much of an impact on them. Is that so? If we go to the Dark Ancient Land, teacher will have the possibility of igniting the divine fire, and his strength will be one step closer. Our strength will also be able to increase. Ji Lingfei said to him with a smile. Yes, but with teacher's strength, isn't it a little risky to go to the Dark Ancient Land? Xiao Ran frowned slightly. It shouldn't be a problem. Xiao Ran, go and inform some of the disciples and students in the academy. Go with teacher tomorrow. Ji Lingfei smiled faintly and shook her head at him. Yes, all right. Xiao Ran nodded and walked out. Sigh. Looking at Xiao Ran's departing figure, Ji Lingfei sighed slightly. Wang. At this moment, she sensed that an item in her interspatial ring was trembling. Her expression changed slightly, and she immediately walked into the room. Wang. Ji Lingfei waved her arm, and a mystical mirror appeared in front of her. In the mirror, an old man with a dignified face appeared. Master. Looking at the old man in the mirror, she immediately bowed and shouted. Have your senior brothers told you some things? The old man looked down at Consort Ji and asked expressionlessly. Master, I don't agree. Please think of your disciple. I don't even know Brown Warren of the Holy Church. All right, you can't do this. This is just a negotiation between us and the Templar Hall. You better get ready, Ji Lingfei said excitedly, but was interrupted by the old man. Also, I heard from your senior that you are now hanging out with that native kid from that planet. You have to know your own identity. In the future, when I'm not around, you have to listen to your senior in everything. Tomorrow, you go to your senior brother's place. Your senior brother will tell you everything. All right, the consumption of long-distance communication is too great. Remember what your master said. The old man continued to speak to her, and then the scene disappeared. Ji Lingfei's expression changed slightly, and she clenched her fist unwillingly. Unless Xiao Ran can reach the deity realm, unless Master Xiao Ran's influence can be valued by Master, otherwise. She muttered weakly. The earth had changed, and the gods had risen. Recently, only 6 of the 4 major influences had become gods, and the rest were gods who had awakened. Those gods already had the power to threaten the Lingxiao Treasured Palace and the other 3 influences. Now, the Lingxiao Treasured Palace wanted to ally with the Holy Church. And how to ally? I hope that Xiao Ran and his master can grow up as soon as possible. I hope. She clenched her fists tightly. Quick, everyone get ready this time. We must use 200% of our strength. The Dragon King will take us to the dark ancient land. Haha. The dean said that we can't be careless this time. The dark ancient land has the existence of god realm demons. This time, even if we can follow the Dragon King and pick up some demonic cores, we can still make a big profit. Early the next morning, a group of elite students and disciples flew to the seaside in front of the Dragon Gate Academy. They looked excited and excited. The Dragon King had brought them into the dark ancient land to hunt demonic beasts. This was an expert who could kill gods. Ling Fei, why did something happen to you all of a sudden? Yes, Sister Ling Fei, why did you suddenly want to go back to the Lingxiao Palace? Xiao Ran, Liu Mengxin, Ji Ling Fei, and Qing Qing were standing by the seaside. Xiao Ran and his sister frowned slightly and asked, "There are some things that I have to go back for. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. We'll contact each other by phone when the time comes." Ji Lingfei smiled at them. "Then come back as soon as possible." Xiao Ran hesitated for a moment and gently spread his arms. "Don't worry." Ji Lingfei smiled sweetly and hugged him gently. "I'll just go back for a while. Don't worry." She whispered in Xiao Ran's ear and gently pecked his face. "Okay." Xiao Ran smiled foolishly and watched Ji Lingfei and the others fly toward the Lingxiao Palace. "Hee, sister-in-law, take care," Liu Mengxin shouted at Ji Lingfei from the side. Ji Lingfei waved at her. Dean. At this moment, the elite students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy rushed over. There were a total of over 1,000 people, all of them were experts at the profound void tier. Ever since the 5 Great Academies competition, Gate 9 Academy had been destroyed, and Dragon Gate Academy had obtained the first place in the competition, becoming the leader of the 4 Great Academies. The Lingfeng Academy was ranked second. Now, it had replaced the Gate 9 Academy and become one of the 3 academies. After the competition, the matter of the headmaster of the Dragon Gate Academy becoming the disciple of the Dragon King was also exposed. Since then, many strong people joined the Dragon Gate Academy and became the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy. Now, the Dragon Gate Academy had more than 1,000 insightful Emptiness Realm experts. "Stand here and wait." Xiao Ran looked at the group of disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy and revealed a satisfied expression on his face. He was very satisfied that the Dragon Gate Academy was able to develop to such a stage in such a short period of time. However, recently, many people had lit divine flames and become gods, causing him to be somewhat disheartened. "It's the headmaster." Everyone immediately nodded respectfully. They looked forward and waited for the arrival of the Dragon King. "He's here, the Dragon King is here." It's so exciting to get close to the Dragon King. Not long after, figures appeared in everyone's sight. Xiao Ran looked over and was slightly stunned when he saw Ba-Chi, Ao-Chi, and the group of demon monkeys. "Master, teacher." Xiao Ran and Liu Mengxin immediately went up and greeted respectfully. "Greetings, Dragon King." At the back, a group of Dragon Gate Academy's disciples and students immediately knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. With the current status and strength of the Dragon King, he was worthy of their worship. "Okay." Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. His gaze swept across the 1,000 people from Dragon Gate Academy. Sensing the Dragon King's gaze, everyone didn't dare to raise their heads. They were all very respectful. "Kick these 50 over people out of the academy. The rest will follow." Wang Xian waved his arm, and more than 50 of them were immediately moved to the side by him. Xiao Ran saw the 50 over people who were moved to the side by Wang Xian. He was slightly stunned and did not understand. However, he did not ask further. He immediately nodded his head. "What's the situation?" The group of Dragon Gate Academy's disciples and students were slightly stunned. They were filled with astonishment. Chapter 1927. 1927 Under the Might of Dragon King 1927. What was going on? The more than 50 people who were called to the side by Wang Xian were slightly stunned. Their expressions instantly turned ugly. The expressions of a few of them changed slightly. "Dragon King, we have been loyal ever since we joined Dragon Gate Academy. Why did you kick us out? What did we do wrong?" A young man stood up directly. His expression changed slightly as he questioned Wang Xian. Let's go. Wang Xian didn't even look at the young man as he spoke to Xiao Ran and the rest. It's master. Xiao Ran nodded and gestured to the students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy. Dragon King, we. Swoosh. At the back, the young man's expression changed slightly when he saw that Wang Xian didn't even bother with him. However, before he could finish his sentence, a sharp sword pierced through his body instantly. Cough cough. The young man's body froze immediately. He widened his eyes slightly and was filled with disbelief. Buzz. The golden sharp sword trembled slightly and his entire body dissipated. This. At the back, more than 50 people saw the young man being reduced to ashes instantly. Their pupils contracted slightly and they trembled for a moment. Some of them exchanged glances and fled into the distance. Gulp. Dragon King, what is this? The members of the Dragon Gate Academy were slightly shocked. They were filled with doubts. Some people are disloyal and have other motives. Wang Xian spoke to Xiao Ran indifferently. He had the heart of light and darkness and could see if some people were loyal. He could tell at a glance if there were people who were disloyal. However, he did not explain to those people. There was no need for him to explain. Thank you, Master. Xiao Ran immediately said gratefully when he heard Wang Xian's words. He did not have any doubts about his master's words. Moreover, his master would not target those 50-odd people whom he had never met for no reason. The students and disciples of Longmen Academy behind them did not need Wang Xian to explain to them. They were whispering that the Dragon King might have noticed that those people were up to no good. That was why he had expelled them. In this regard, the thousands of students of the Dragon Gate Academy nodded in agreement. Sometimes, when a powerhouse did something, there was no need to explain. Someone would help to explain. Why isn't your girlfriend, Ji Lingfei, here? Wang Xian asked Xiao Ran indifferently. Master, she has some matters to attend to. She has returned to the Lingxiao treasured palace, Xiao Ran said with a slightly red face. Hee. Wang Xian smiled. The group of them quickly walked toward the nearest dark ancient land. The dark ancient land in the ocean was only a few hundred kilometers away from Wang Xian. It was not far from them. After more than 10 minutes, a group of more than 1,000 people approached quickly. Around the dark ancient land, there were ferocious demonic beasts scattered around. When they saw Wang Xian and the rest approaching, they attacked in a frenzy. Hiss. There are many demigod-level demonic beasts in the surroundings. If we come here, we would be courting death. Is this the cave of the dark ancient land? It's so terrifying inside. There's a terrifying force coming from it. The disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy took a deep breath when they saw the location in front of them. Their eyes were filled with fear. Located above an island, there was a pitch-black hole that was so dark that one could not see the bottom. The dark energy seeped out from the hole, causing the area within a few thousand meters to be pitch-black. From time to time, there would be ferocious demonic beasts crawling out from the hole. They ranged from the transcendent level to the demigod level. Roar. Without needing Wang Xian's order, the two members of the Demon War Department let out a low roar and charged out from behind them. Bang, bang, bang. The two demon monkeys were also emitting extremely violent dark energy. They held weapons at the peak of the demigod level in their hands and smashed them towards Yaro Xie. Bang, bang, bang. With a swing of their clubs, a demigod-level demon beast was smashed to death. The terrifying demonic aura and violent strength caused the surrounding Yaro Xie to tremble. Hiss, so strong. Are those the subordinates of the Dragon King? Two of them are already so terrifying. This, a demigod-level demonic demon with one staff and that violent aura from his body. He's simply too powerful. When the students of the Dragon Gate Academy saw the terrifying attacks of the demon monkeys, their eyes widened slightly and their hearts trembled. Just two demon monkeys were already so powerful. What about the rest? Were they also this powerful? Their gazes looked at the 100+ experts behind the Dragon King as their eyes flickered. Go in. Xiaoran, you guys stay behind. I will leave some demons below the demigod level for you. Wang Xian looked at the center of the dark ancient land. The entrance was 2,000 meters wide, and even he couldn't see the bottom of the abyss. He spoke to Xiao Ran and walked straight in. The members of the Dragon Palace immediately followed behind. Everyone, be careful. You will be fighting some demons below the demigod level next. With your strength, there is a possibility of death. Be on your guard. Xiao Ran reminded the students of the Longmen Academy and followed behind Wang Xian. What a deep cave entrance. I wonder how big this dark kingdom is. After entering the cave entrance, Wang Xian swept his gaze downwards. In some spots inside the cave entrance, pairs of blood-red eyes were staring at them. Roar, roar, roar. A brutal sound rang out, and the demonic beasts inside the cave directly attacked them. Roar. A few demon monkeys immediately went up to them, and the weapons in their hands smashed heavily onto their bodies. The demigod-level demonic beasts' corpses were directly kept into the interspatial ring. As for the transcendent-level profound void-level demonic beasts, they were directly left to the people of Dragon Gate Academy. This made all the students and disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy look excited. Roar, roar, roar. Continuous roars could be heard throughout the entire passageway. There were even hundreds of demigod-level demons. This is just the entrance and there are already hundreds of demigod-level demons. Doesn't that mean there are tens of thousands of them inside? Wang Xian walked towards the front indifferently. He didn't know much about this dark ancient land. He was sure that he knew a lot about the fallen gods. However, Wang Xian wasn't afraid at all. The divine light from the divine mountain could suppress the demons in the dark ancient land. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. After advancing for about 3 kilometers, an extremely huge space appeared in front of them. The interior of the Dark God Kingdom was like a bee's nest. It was similar to a cave. There were many densely packed caves in there. The densely packed void continued to extend forward. One could not see the end of it. It was at least a few hundred kilometers. The moment they entered the void, blood-red eyes stared at them. It was horrible. Chapter 1928. 1928 True Dragon Son of Heaven Song Li Shong. Is this the lair of the dark ancient land's demonic beasts? How can it be so terrifying? Hiss, just how many demonic beasts are there? When everyone stood at the edge of the entrance, the people from Dragon Gate Academy looked inside in shock. Especially when they saw those densely packed blood-red eyes, they felt their scalps go numb. Those blood-red eyes were filled with cruelty and cold-bloodedness as they stared at them coldly and mercilessly. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and swept his gaze across the surrounding caves and the demonic beasts inside. It seems that there are at least tens of millions of demonic beasts in the Kingdom of Darkness. Those demonic beasts of the divine realm should be located in the deepest part of the kingdom. Wang Xian looked at the interior of the divine kingdom and was slightly shocked. Looking at the nests, he felt a sense of familiarity. The dragon caves in the Dragon Palace were similar to this place. However, the difference was that the dragon caves in the Dragon Palace emitted a vast and majestic aura and a divine dragon aura. The nests in the interior only had bloodiness and brutality. Before the celestial race and the insect race were destroyed, there were no such dragon nests in the Dragon Palace. These dragon nests originated from the insect nest. These demonic nests are similar to the insect nests. I wonder what the relationship is between the two. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Roar, roar, roar. Just as he was deep in thought, the demonic beasts with blood-red eyes in front of him let out a roar in unison and attacked him. Some of them had bone wings, some had more than 10 legs, and some had long tails. However, the strength of these demons were mostly at the transcendent level. Attack! Xiao Ran looked at the tens of thousands of demons pouncing at them and immediately ordered the people from Dragon Gate Academy. It's the Dean. The disciples of Dragon Gate Academy revealed excited expressions in their eyes. They could easily deal with these supernatural-level demons. The demon cores of supernatural-level demons were also a huge fortune to them. There should be some low-level demons at the edge. I'll bring the disciples of the Dragon Palace to the deeper areas. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings indifferently and said to Xiao Ran before walking straight ahead. It's Master. Xiao Ran nodded. Together with the disciples of the Dragon Gate, they quickly killed the surrounding demons. Wang Xian and the disciples of the Dragon Palace walked straight into the inner area. The surrounding demons attacked one by one. They were killed by the demon monkey with a sweep. With a simple attack, more than 1,000 demons were killed. Master's subordinates are so strong. They are even stronger than me. From the back, Xiao Ran glanced at the position in front of him and looked at the demon monkey. He was extremely shocked. Any random disciple of the Dragon Palace had strength that was even stronger than him. Kill. He clenched his teeth and his body shook. The terrifying flames immediately covered a radius of more than 10 kilometers. Headmaster is mighty. Headmaster is too strong. Haha. The group of Dragon Gate Academy disciples immediately shouted excitedly when they saw the headmaster showing off his might. Quickly put away the monster core and follow. Xiao Ran immediately ordered. Yes, quickly take out the monster core. Ha, quickly, follow behind the Dragon King and the others. With the headmaster and the Dragon King around, our Dragon Gate Academy will be rich this time. Excited voices sounded one after another. After everyone put away the monster core, they immediately walked forward. However, when they saw the scene in front of them, they opened their mouths slightly. The Dragon King and his entourage of more than 100 people walked forward as if they were taking a stroll under the setting sun. The surrounding nests were densely packed with countless monsters that pounced on them. However, on the left and right sides, there were only 2 demon monkeys holding black cudgels. With a sweep, all the monsters that pounced on them died. This scene shocked them beyond words. How strong are the subordinates of the Dragon King? Everyone was shocked. Get rid of the fish that escaped the net. At this moment, Xiao Ran's voice sounded. Everyone rushed forward to attack the demons in front of them. They were all excited. This time, after killing all the demons, their strength could at least increase by 1 level or even more. Wang Xian led the disciples of the Dragon Palace deeper into the Divine Kingdom. The dragon eyes of the yin-yang and 5 elements swept across the entire Divine Kingdom of Darkness. In this place, there were no other creatures other than densely packed caves on the surrounding walls. The deeper they went, the higher the level of the demonic demons. When they walked for about 50 kilometers, they were surrounded by demonic demons of the insightful void tier. The variety of demonic beasts was also more abundant, but the number of demonic beasts had decreased by a lot. However, there were still millions of demonic beasts. At the back, the people from the Dragon Gate Academy were already finding it difficult to hunt down the demonic beasts one by one. All members of the Demon War Department, take action and collect all the corpses. Wang Xian took a glance at the back and ordered more than 100 members of the Demon War Department to take action after leaving them with more than 10,000 insightful void-tier demonic beast. It's the Dragon King. Roar. The 100 demon monkeys let out a furious roar at the same time. Their violent voices reverberated throughout the entire Divine Kingdom. They waved the clubs in their hands and swept toward the demons in front of them. The 100 demons were able to fight a terrifying battle that was comparable to a demigod level 8. It was an easy feat for them to sweep away a group of insightful void-level demons. They swept across more than 100 kilometers and more than 2 million demons died in their hands. Wang Xian walked in the center. With a wave of his arm, the phantoms of the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom appeared and stored the corpses of the demons into the Dragon Palace. Even though they were all demons of the void interpretation level, there were more than 2 million of them. It was still a terrifying amount of resources. In the magnificent dragon pool, streams of dragon blood flowed in. The members of the Dragon Palace immersed themselves in the dragon pool to increase their strength. Heavenly troops and heavenly generals, let's go. Just as Wang Xian and the rest were hunting demonic beasts in the Dark Kingdom, a majestic voice sounded from the East Heaven Gate of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace. At this moment, a group of gods led 100,000 heavenly troops and heavenly generals to fly toward a dark ancient land. After adding a few god-level powerhouses in the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, the gods of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace were ready to attack the Dark Kingdom. Once they took down a Dark God Kingdom, if all the resources inside were used to create godly state experts, at least 2 or 3 people would be able to advance to the godly state. This caused them to directly mobilize all the forces of the Ling Xiao treasured palace, more than a dozen gods and 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly general. The Ling Xiao treasured palace has mobilized all its forces to attack a dark god kingdom. TSK. At this moment, in the sky above an ocean, a young man proudly looked at the group of gods and heavenly soldiers. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said indifferently, "Brother Song, they have at least 10 gods and 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals to attack a dark divine kingdom. Isn't our strength a little too little? Why don't we find a few more people?" A middle-aged man in golden armor stood beside the young man. His entire body was filled with boundless power. Behind him were over 1,000 silver-armored soldiers. Behind the other young man was a group of disciples from the 4 mountain factions. Chapter 1929. 1929 True Dragon Son of Heaven Song Lixia. Hehe, Brother Li, looks like you were a little weak in the past. I entered that dark divine kingdom over 100,000 years ago and I remember it very clearly. At that time, I killed more than 20 divine realm demonic beasts and there were definitely not more than 3 that could be revived. With my current strength, I can deal with them. In the sky above the sea, the young man arrogantly said to the golden-armored middle-aged man. The young man was wearing green clothes. The picture of a divine dragon was engraved on his clothes, and his body was filled with a fierce aura. It's good that you are confident. I don't want to die again after being resurrected. The golden-armored middle-aged man said to him indifferently. Haha, with me, Song Li, here, Brother Li, don't worry. The young man in dragon robe revealed a strong sense of confidence, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. We of the Finger Sky Mountain believe in the strength of Lord Dragon God. If we destroy that ancient land of darkness, Lord Dragon God's strength will definitely increase. Behind Song Li, the disciples of the Finger Sky Mountain said respectfully from the side. Lord Dragon God has already ignited the divine fire and obtained the dragon soul. Once, 2 wisps of divine fire demonic evil rushed out from that ancient land of darkness. With your strength, Lord, you can easily kill it. The mountain lord of Skyfinger Mountain, Wei Hauge, who was ranked 2nd on the prodigy roll, also respectfully flattered him. Brother Song's strength is unquestionable. Since Brother Song is so confident, let's go over. The golden-armored god looked at Song Li with a hint of jealousy in his eyes. The Dragon King used the unignited divine fire realm to forcefully kill the Yamen god of the pyramid, shaking the entire world. After that, everyone guessed that the Dragon King was so powerful because he had obtained the dragon soul. Now that Song Li had obtained the dragon soul and condensed the body of a true dragon, coupled with his previous experience as a god, it was bound to be even more terrifying. It was almost 100% possible to fight above one's level. It was even very likely that it would be very easy to kill the god who had ignited 2 wisps of divine fire. Let's go. Song Li's eyes flickered with intense confidence as divine light spread out from his body. Buzz. With a wave of his arm, he led everyone to teleport forward. Hey! When their figures appeared next to a dark ancient land, a surprised voice sounded from their mouths. Someone has already entered the dark divine kingdom before us. The golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes flickered as he scanned his surroundings. His gaze landed on Song Li. They aren't from the pyramid, the fire god palace, or the holy church. They should be from other gods. I wonder how many of them are there. Interesting. But that's good too. They have saved us a lot of time. Let's go. Song Li said indifferently. His face was filled with intense confidence. The golden-armored middle-aged man nodded. In the current earth, no god would be a match for the true dragon son of heaven. Su. The group of people moved and quickly flew inside. Because there was no evil at the entrance, the group of people moved very quickly and soon arrived inside the divine kingdom. Seeing the vast divine kingdom that was like a beehive, the people behind them sucked in a deep breath of cold air. TSK, he even took away a transcendent level demonic core. He should be from a god faction. Could it be that fellow from the celestial race? Song Li's gaze swept past the demonic corpse in front of him and continued flying forward. So many demonic corpses. Even if they are at the transcendent level, They are still a huge fortune. The group of disciples from Skyfinger Mountain looked over with burning eyes. They followed behind the golden-armored middle-aged man and flew forward. There's someone in front. When they flew about 100 kilometers, the sound of fighting could be heard. Song Li and the golden-armored middle-aged man looked at each other, their eyes shining with a divine light as they looked inside. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. The two of them sped up and arrived in front of the group. Haha, this is too awesome. Everyone, put in more effort. There are still over 3,000 beasts. Kill them. The two of them floated in front of them. The excited voices of the Dragon Gate disciples could be heard from the front. Ha! At this moment, Xiao Ran suddenly turned around and looked at the two people in the sky. His pupils could not help but narrow slightly. He swept his gaze behind him and saw that there were still a few hundred people flying over from behind. Boom! Xiao Ran waved his arm, and terrifying flames separated the people of Dragon Gate Academy from Yaroxie temporarily. Who are you people? He asked the few hundred people behind him with some vigilance. His gaze flickered as he looked at Song Li and the golden-armored middle-aged man. Dragon Gate Academy? Wei Haoge, who was at the back, saw Xiao Ran. He raised his brows slightly and said softly, Dragon Gate Academy? The disciple of the Dragon King. Did the Dragon King bring you here? The golden-armored middle-aged man's gaze fell behind Xiao Ran and looked toward the interior of the divine kingdom of darkness as he asked faintly, Everyone, may I know why you are here? Xiao Ran cupped his hands toward them and asked with a frown. I'm asking you a question. Did the Dragon King bring you here? Song Li looked at Xiao Ran indifferently and said coldly. At the same time, a wave of dragon might from his body covered Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran's expression changed. He spat out blood and his face turned pale. Dean, brother. Everyone from Dragon Gate Academy was shocked and quickly came to Xiao Ran's side. My master is indeed inside. My master should not have any enmity with you, right? Xiao Ran wiped his hands and waved at the people from Dragon Gate Academy. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said to Song Li, Naturally, there is no enmity. I am just a little curious as to what the Dragon King, who is known as the head of the true dragon, is capable of. Ha ha. Song Li smiled and a mighty aura spread out from his body. Lord Dragon God, among the group of Dragon Soul recipients, only the Dragon King has yet to ignite the divine fire. In front of you, he naturally doesn't have the right to be called the head of the true dragon. Wei Haoge respectfully flattered him from behind. Hehe, this Dragon King can kill a god. Presumably, he has already obtained the dragon soul for a long time, but he is somewhat useless and has yet to ignite the divine fire. Song Li's face revealed a faint smile as he commented. It's already a great opportunity for the Dragon King to obtain the dragon soul. How is it possible for him to become a god after more than 10 years? The golden-armored middle-aged man said expressionlessly. They had all cultivated to become gods in the past, and every single one of them had spent thousands or even tens of thousands of years. This time, they had fallen and resurrected because they had the cultivation experience of the past. Igniting the divine fire was not that easy. Haha, I've long wanted to meet that Dragon King. Today, I'll get to know this legendary figure. Song Li laughed loudly. He saw the area that was separated by the flames and waved his hand. Roar. 100-meter-long wind dragon condensed from the wind attribute roared and blew out the flames. The thousands of demonic beasts were instantly killed. Brother Xiao Ran, you must have obtained a lot of demonic cores. Please give them to us. Wei Haoge looked at the demonic beasts' corpses on the ground and saw that many of the demonic cores had been dug out. He pursed his lips and said with shining eyes, Chapter 1930. 1930 True Dragon? 1. Brother Xiao Ran, you have obtained quite a number of demon cores, so please give them to us. In the Dark God Country, Wei Haoge's voice suddenly rang out, causing Xiao Ran and the people from the Dragon Gate Academy to be slightly stunned. Very quickly, Xiao Ran and the others' expressions slowly turned ugly. Finger Sky Mountain, don't go too far, these demon cores were all obtained by us. A disciple of the Dragon Gate Academy roared angrily. Brother Li, Let's go meet that Dragon King. I wonder where his confidence comes from. He actually barged into this dark ancient land alone and relied on that divine weapon. Song Li swept his gaze over and ignored him as he spoke to the golden-armored middle-aged man. Divine weapon? A trace of greed flickered in the golden-armored middle-aged man's eyes. He quickly nodded and gestured to the group of silver-armored subordinates behind him before flying forward. The silver-armored middle-aged man's gaze slowly looked at the people from Dragon Gate Academy as his body emitted a powerful aura. Wave after wave of demigod-level might erupted and charged towards Xiao Ran and the others. Among them, there were a few silver-armored middle-aged men whose might was not weaker than Xiao Ran's. "Ha ha, Principal Xiao Ran, take out the demon nucleus. Don't force us to make a move." Wei Haoge laughed loudly and said to Xiao Ran with his head slightly raised. "Give them the demon cores." Xiao Ran sensed the powerful aura of the silver-armored cultivator and growled at his subordinates with an extremely ugly expression. "Dean." Some people gritted their teeth with unwillingness on their faces and threw all the demon cores in their hands to them. "Haha, don't be so unwilling. The items in this dark ancient land don't belong to you. The items here belong to our Lord Dragon God and Lord Golden God. As for the so-called Dragon King, you have to stand aside. If that Dragon King doesn't know what's good for him, who knows, hey?" The corners of Wei Haoge's mouth slightly curled up as he smiled at Xiao Ran and the others. "Put away the demon cores on the ground and give half to the silver-armored cultivators. We'll go find Lord Dragon God and the others." He ordered the disciples. "It's the Mountain Master." The hundreds of disciples of Skyfinger Mountain excitedly picked up the demon cores on the ground and flew into the Dark Divine Kingdom. "Damn it, they stole all of our demon cores. Headmaster, are we going to let them go just like that?" A disciple of Dragon Gate Academy said angrily as he watched them leave. "That youth in the dragon robe just now looks like the true dragon son of heaven. Song Li brother, teacher won't be in any trouble, right?" Liu Mengxian looked at their departing figures and revealed a worried expression. "True dragon son of heaven, Song Li?" The expressions of the students of the Dragon Gate Academy also changed slightly. That golden-armored youth is also a divine dragon. However, the leaders beside teacher should also be quite strong. Xiao Ran's expression changed. He did not know exactly how strong his master was, but just as the outside world knew, his master did not light the divine fire. If his master really obtained the dragon soul to have such powerful strength, then the true dragon son of heaven Song Li who lit the divine fire must also be very powerful. He was not sure if his master was Song Li's match. "What should we do?" Although the Dragon King is strong, he didn't ignite the divine fire. The surrounding disciples of Dragon Gate Academy also revealed anxious expressions. "Let's go." Xiao Ran clenched his teeth and followed the sky-pointing mountain and the silver-armored cultivators. "Let's go." The members of Dragon Gate Academy immediately followed behind, their eyes filled with worry as they flew inside. Roar, roar, roar. About 200 kilometers away from the Kingdom of Darkness, more than 100 members of the Demon War Department were fighting at a terrifying speed. Around them, many demigod-level demons were being slaughtered rapidly. "We're almost at the deepest part." Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, Ao Chitian, Ao Jian, Ao Qi, and Ba stood there quietly. They did not make a move from the beginning to the end. For the time being, there was no evil that could make them make a move. At the end of the altar, there were more than 10 huge nests. 3 of them were emitting a dark luster. At the center of the end, there was something similar to a dark altar. On top of the altar, there were dozens of praying mats. Wang Xian looked at the altar curiously. Swoosh. At this moment, an extremely terrifying shadow attacked them. The shadow was not very big. It was only about 2 meters in size. It had 8 legs, and each of its legs had extremely sharp blades. It almost teleported and attacked Wang Xian who was in the middle. Huh! Wang Xian looked at the evil demon who was attacking him calmly. Its speed is pretty fast. However, it is still much slower compared to the Ao demon. His eyes met with the evil demon's. When the evil demon saw Wang Xian's calm expression, it had a bad premonition in its heart. "GG." It let out a sharp cry and immediately turned around. Bang! However, at this moment, an incomparably huge dark palm that was filled with scales and horns gripped its body tightly. Dragon King, a wisp of divine fire, Yarosye. Aochitian stared at the Yarosye in his hand and said, "Save me." The Yarosye sensed Aochitian's terrifying power and roared in fear. Roar! "Humans, how dare you intrude into our lair? I'm going to eat you." A wild roar was heard, and at the end of the Dark Kingdom, two huge bodies flew out. One of them had 3 eyes, a long tail, and a body full of sharp thorns. The blood-red eyes of the lizard-like demonic beast were staring at them. The other demonic beast was as big as a snake. There was only one pale white eye on its head, and there were many sharp thorns on its upper body. Each of their bodies was 3 to 4 kilometers long. The first demonic beast was the terrifying existence that attacked the Ling Xiao treasure palace. 2 demonic beasts that are comparable to 2 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 2 demonic beasts and landed on the demonic beast in Aochitian's hand. He waved his arm and the shadow of the Dragon Nation flashed past. The demonic beast that had just attacked them died instantly and entered the Dragon Palace. Roar! When the 2 demonic beasts saw their comrades being killed instantly, their eyes revealed a look of fear. Although demonic beasts were extremely brutal, demonic beasts of the godly state were not lacking in intelligence. The group of people in front of them posed a great threat to them. They bent their bodies slightly and stared at Wang Xian and the rest warily. TSK, they actually came to the deepest part of the cave. 2 demonic beasts that are comparable to 2 wisps of divine fire. It's just as I expected. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked behind him. Chapter 1931. 1931 True Dragon? 2. There were 2 figures. One of them was dressed in a green dragon robe. His face was filled with confidence and pride. The other was a middle-aged man who was dressed in golden armor. A golden radiance enveloped his entire body. The 2 of them swept their gaze across the 2 demons at the end of the line. They revealed a relaxed expression on their faces. Song Li. When Wang Xian saw the expression of the young man dressed in a green dragon robe, a faint smile appeared on his face. He knew this young man, but the other party might not know him. If Wang Xian remembered correctly, he was the 7th god to obtain the dragon soul. He was also a god who had fallen before. More than a month ago, he condensed the true form of the divine wind dragon and ignited the divine fire. From Song Li's body, he could feel a very familiar aura. Dragon King? As he was sizing up the other party, Song Li also looked at him slowly. His face was filled with curiosity and mockery. The son of heaven of the true dragon, Song Li? The corners of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he looked at him with a hint of evil humor. Haha, I didn't expect the Dragon King to know my name. It's such an honor. However, it seems that you've encountered some trouble, Dragon King. 2 demonic demons that can rival 2 wisps of divine fire. I wonder how you're going to deal with them. Song Li looked at Wang Xian and laughed out loud. He didn't put Wang Xian and the 2 demonic beasts in his eyes at all. May I know why you 2 are here? Wang Xian's expression didn't change at all when he heard what Song Li said. He asked faintly, I'm here to hunt down the demonic beasts and find some treasures along the way. I didn't expect that there would be an unexpected surprise this time. The golden-armored middle-aged man was also sizing up Wang Xian. His eyes sparkled. Oh! Wang Xian saw the greed in his eyes and raised his eyebrows slightly. Dragon King, go and attack these 2 demonic beasts. Let me see your strength and let me see what you can do as the leader of the true dragons. At this moment, Song Li, who was hovering high in the air, suddenly said to Wang Xian. There was a hint of an order in his voice. Why should I let you witness my strength? Wang Xian looked at him and said calmly. These 2 people in front of him had some ulterior motives. Haha, since you're not going, I'll go then. Song Li didn't get angry at all when he heard his words. Instead, he laughed out loud. His cold gaze swept across the 2 demonic beasts that were comparable to 2 wisps of divine flames. Roar! Roar! He raised his head and let out a wild roar. A wave of dragon might filled the surroundings. I am the Wind Divine Dragon. Today, you are fortunate enough to witness my strength. Ha ha ha. He let out an excited roar and spread his arms. Under the somewhat shocked gaze of the golden-armored middle-aged man, his figure slowly transformed into a divine dragon. The divine dragon was 2,000 meters long and had powerful and dazzling green scales. Its horns were like deer, its head was like a camel, its eyes were like a rabbit, its neck was like a snake, its belly was like a clam, its scales were like fish, its claws were like an eagle, its paws were like a tiger, and its ears were like an ox. Unlike the other divine dragons, the Wind Divine Dragon had a pair of green and tough dragon wings. The Wind Divine Dragon was the only divine dragon among the divine dragons that had wings. Their speed was the fastest among all the divine dragons. A majestic and vast aura emanated from his body. Crash! The dragon wings spread out and made a sound. It was as powerful as a prison. Song Li used the body of the wind god dragon and swept his majestic gaze across the golden-armored middle-aged man, Wang Xian, and the rest. Then, he slowly looked at the two Avilders in front of him. Roar! Roar! The two demons could feel the powerful pressure from Song Li's body. Their eyes revealed a hint of seriousness and fear. They let out a low roar and could not help but take a few steps back. Roar! 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 Song Li's eyes were filled with excitement as he let out a wild roar. As he felt the powerful force coming from his body, a strong sense of confidence shot out from his eyes. Two little demons, go to hell. He waved his huge dragon tail and attacked the two demons directly. The entire interior of the Kingdom of Darkness was instantly covered by the green wind attribute energy. The golden-armored middle-aged man hurriedly retreated to the back. Let's retreat and see his strength, Wang Xian said to Ao Chitian and the rest. He also retreated to the back. He was smiling as he looked at Song Li's divine dragon body and its powerful aura. He also wanted to know how strong Song Li was. How strong was that divine dragon body? Roar! I will tear you apart. Furious roars came out from the mouths of the two demonic beasts. Their similarly huge bodies attacked Song Li directly. As demonic beasts, the most powerful thing was their physical bodies. At the same time, ordinary demonic beasts possessed powerful poisons and corrosive abilities. The two demonic beasts directly pounced towards Song Li's divine dragon body. A physical battle? Then I'll let you bunch of beasts experience the body of a divine dragon. When Song Li saw the two demonic beasts attacking him, there was not a hint of fear on his face. In fact, he even waved his huge tail and charged towards the demonic beasts. Boom! Bang bang bang! The divine dragon waved its tail and its huge tail charged towards the demonic beasts. A metallic sound rang out from the collision. The entire body of the demonic beasts was made of bones and sharp spikes. However, Song Li's divine dragon body, the scales that were emitting green light, and the dragon tail that was supported by the dragon bones, were not afraid at all. The terrifying collision was 1 against 2. The two demonic beasts were instead sent flying backwards. Although Song Li's body was also sent flying backwards, it was obvious that he was at an advantage. Roar roar! I'll let you guys experience the domain of the Wind Divine Dragon. Song Li roared excitedly. The green energy around him enveloped the entire 50 kilometers radius. The two demonic beasts slowly lowered their bodies. Waves of dark energy surged on their bodies. Their bloody eyes stared at Song Li anxiously. Wind Dragon roar! Song Li flapped his huge dragon wings. The wind elemental energy in the surroundings began to go berserk. Countless amounts of energy condensed into the shadows of wind dragons and attacked demonic beasts directly. Roar! 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 When the two Yaoxia saw more than 10 wind dragons that were thousands of meters in size charging at them, they opened their mouths and a black liquid that looked like sulfuric acid attacked the wind dragons that were condensed from energy. Sizzle! 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 A strong corrosion came over and the wind dragons were corroded. This is only the beginning. Song Li opened his mouth slightly when he saw this. He flapped his wings again, and immediately, more than 10 wind dragons formed and attacked once again. What's going on in the depths? Is the Lord God fighting? It's the Lord Dragon God's voice. Quick, quick, let's go take a look. At that moment, The people from Sky Mountain and the silver-armored cultivators approached from behind. When they sensed the sounds of battle coming from inside, they all sped up and rushed over. Behind them, Xiao Ran and the others from Dragon Gate Academy also sped up. A hint of worry appeared on their faces. That's right. When they came to the depths and saw the divine dragon and the two demonic beasts fighting, they were slightly shocked. Chapter 1932. 1932 True Dragon? 3. A wind god dragon that was 2 to 3,000 meters long waved its tail and long dragon wings. As the dragon wings flapped, more than 10 enormous wind dragons formed and attacked the two Avilders. The violent wind dragons were very lifelike and had an extremely powerful pressure. The people from Sky Mountain and the silver-armored cultivator looked around and their eyes fell on the majestic dragon god. They took a deep breath. That's Lord Dragon God. Lord Dragon God is fighting two demons alone. That demon with the bone wings is like a lizard. He's the one who attacked the Lingxiao treasured palace. This demon seems to be comparable to two wisps of divine fire. The other demon is no weaker than the bone-winged lizard demon. These are two gods that are comparable to two wisps of divine fire. Lord Dragon God is fighting two invincible demons alone. The people of Skyfinger Mountain looked at the invincible wind god dragon with heated expressions. Fighting against two wisps of divine fire Yarosir alone was a strength that even the Lingxiao Palace had to be wary of. Hiss, that true dragon son of heaven Song Li is so strong. He can fight against two powerful Yarosir alone. Also, he can turn into the legendary divine dragon of China. Is the true dragon son of heaven so strong? Why do I feel that his strength is even more terrifying than our dragon king's? The people from the Dragon Gate Academy took a deep breath when they saw this scene. Their eyes were filled with shock. Even when the Dragon King killed the Yamen god, he wasn't this strong. Keek, Dragon King, the poison on these demons can threaten gods. I'll get some later. At the side, Bhe looked at the demonic beasts in front of him and said with a smile. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. Bhe was in charge of the department. Now that Mo Shao had joined forces with the two old cowards, the current system department of the Dragon Palace was unusually powerful. At their current position, the two of them had already developed toxins that could threaten godly state experts. This was a significant improvement to the strength of the Dragon Palace. When the toxin created by Bhe and the rest allowed the Fire Hammer clan to completely integrate it into their weapons and daggers, it could produce an extremely terrifying effect. This was especially so for the Strange Demon clan and the Heavenly Eye Arrow clan. It was a qualitative improvement. He looked at Song Li's wind god dragon body with a satisfied expression. The dragon soul of the land of the 9 dragons was originally the land of the dragon veins. After receiving the blood of the divine dragon from Wang Xian, it gained sentience. In addition to the true god that Song Li had condensed, it could be said that this divine wind dragon in front of him, other than not having the divine dragon transformation, which was the cultivation method of the dragon race, was not much different from an ordinary divine dragon. At the very least, with the body of the divine dragon, he could easily fight against opponents of a higher level. In addition, Song Li was once a godly state expert and had a wealth of experience. There was no pressure for him to fight against two wisps of demonic fire. In fact, with his current strength, he could even fight against the god of the divine fire on the 3rd floor. This was Song Li's strength, and also his ability to be arrogant and superior. Wind Divine Dragon, Wind Tornado. At this moment, Song Li's explosive voice sounded once again. He flapped his huge wings, and 2 wind dragons slowly flew out from them. These 2 divine dragons were obviously more powerful and terrifying than the divine dragons formed by the wind attributes just now. The 2 divine dragons were entangled together, and the speed of their entanglement was getting faster and faster. In front of them, they formed a dragon head with a radius of about 20 kilometers. The dragon opened its mouth and attacked the 2 demonic beasts. The 2 demonic beasts barely managed to resist the attack just now. When they faced the tornado that was attacking them again, their eyes showed fear. Roar, roar, roar. They kept retreating, all the way to the side of their nest. Roar, roar, roar. The 2 demonic beasts let out brutal roars again, and the nest behind them suddenly exploded with an extremely dense dark energy. Roar! The two Avilders jumped heavily and attacked the dragon head at the front of the tornado. Behind them, the nest seemed to be following them. Within the pitch-black nest, dark energy condensed into all sorts of Avilders and tore at the dragon head within a 20-kilometer radius. Boom! 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 The sound of an explosion rang out, and the tornado quickly dissipated under the attacks of the two Avilders. Did they use the power of the dark lair? Song Li looked at the dark lair behind them, and a cold expression appeared on his face. In that case, Storm God Valley, suppress it. With a dragon's roar, he raised his dragon head high, and a Storm God Valley appeared behind him. The valley within a radius of 50 kilometers was filled with dense wind elemental energy. This was Song Li's divine kingdom, Dragon Plate. Song Li came to the sky above the divine kingdom and settled down in the middle. Waves of wind elemental energy surged towards his body. His divine dragon body was slowly surrounded by wind elemental energy, and his body quickly reached the size of a radius of dozens of kilometers. Song Li settled down in the sky above the divine kingdom and directly suppressed the two Avilders. Hiss! The divine dragon has occupied the divine kingdom and suppressed the demonic beasts. Lord Dragon God's strength is simply too terrifying. The people from Skyfinger Mountain looked at this scene in shock and sucked in a breath of cold air. The golden-armored middle-aged man's pupils constricted slightly as he looked at Song Li with fear in his eyes. Roar! The two demonic beasts looked at the powerful and invincible Song Li as he shook his body violently. He brought the dark lair behind him and charged straight at them. The Dark God Nation wasn't big enough for them, so they had nowhere to hide. Dragon Claw! The Storm God Valley collided with the two dark lairs. Song Li stretched out two huge dragon claws and clawed at the two demonic beasts. Boom! Not good, get down now. Dodge! A violent collision sound was heard. The faces of the Sky Mountain people and the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy changed slightly, and they immediately shouted. A terrifying wave of wind rushed out in all directions. Even those at the third or fourth level of the demigod rank had to lie on the ground to avoid the aftershock. Roar! 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 Two miserable screams were heard. Everyone narrowed their eyes and looked toward the center of the battlefield. Ha ha ha, two little demons, how dare they act so impudently in front of me? The aftershock of the collision slowly dissipated and a loud laughter was heard. Everyone who was lying on the ground was slightly shocked as they looked up at the wind god dragon that was entrenched in the sky above the kingdom of God. At the end of the kingdom of God of darkness, the two dying bodies of the two demons were lying on the ground, twitching slightly. Song Li swept his gaze across the two demons on the ground. The dragon's body was coiled and coiled as he slowly turned his head to look at Wang Xian and the rest. The might of a true dragon is so terrifying. The golden-armored middle-aged man was shocked. Chapter 1933. 1933 True Dragon? 4. Not long after igniting the divine fire, he was able to suppress two gods that were comparable to two wisps of divine fire. With the body of a true dragon suppressing them, this invincible appearance could only be described with two words. How terrifying! Even the golden-armored middle-aged man was extremely shocked. Although he was also a god that had fallen before, now that he had ignited the divine fire once again, he believed that even if he could easily defeat a god of the same level, he could even fight against two wisps of divine fire. However, he absolutely could not suppress two wisps of divine fire. Even if he faced one, it would be extremely troublesome, and he would flee in panic. However, now, Song Li could easily suppress two. This terrifying fighting strength was something only a god of three wisps of divine fire could do. Hiss! Our Lord Dragon God is so strong. A group of Sky Mountain experts' disciples lay on the ground, looking at Song Li, who was crouching above the divine storm valley, with deep reverence on their faces. Lord Dragon God is invincible. Lord Dragon God is mighty. Wei Haoge immediately knelt on the ground and shouted at Song Li. Lord Dragon God is invincible. Lord Dragon God is mighty. The group of Skyfinger disciples immediately knelt on the ground and shouted. Ha ha ha. Hearing the words of his subordinates, Song Li laughed loudly, and a domineering look appeared on his face. He slowly lowered his head, his huge dragon eyes staring at everyone. "Those who worship me, I will protect you," Song Li said in a dignified manner, his gaze slowly landing on the golden-armored middle-aged man. "Li Qingtian, before you died, you were the god who ignited 6 wisps of divine fire, and I, the dragon god, had already ignited 8 wisps of divine fire. Now that I have obtained the dragon soul, I am the true dragon's son of heaven. I will definitely step onto the eternal path in the future. Now, follow me and I will take you all further." Song Li stared at the golden-armored middle-aged man. His dragon whiskers trembled slightly as he smiled. Li Qingtian's expression changed slightly when he heard his words. As a god, he rarely followed others. Of course, if the other party was powerful, it would be a good choice to follow experts. Song Li had called him over today. It was obvious that he had such a plan. Seeing his terrifying strength, Li Qingtian was a little hesitant. After all, the other party was the son of heaven of the true dragon. "Song Li, can someone else's dragon soul be taken away?" Suddenly, Li Qingtian glanced at Wang Xian and asked Song Li directly. "Oh." When Song Li heard his words, a meaningful look appeared on his face. He looked at Wang Xian with his dragon eyes and revealed a teasing expression. "Once the dragon soul is fused with someone, it will disappear completely. Even if we kill it, no one else will be able to obtain it," he said faintly. "The following Earth is not very safe. Even if it's you, it's hard to say if you can survive. Follow me and I will guarantee your safety." As Song Li spoke, Li Qingtian revealed a disappointed expression. He hesitated slightly. "Greetings, Dragon God." Not long after, Li Qingtian knelt on one knee and bowed to Song Li. "Ha ha ha ha." A carefree laughter came from his mouth. "Dragon King, what about you?" All of a sudden, his smile stopped. He looked at Wang Xian and a cold glint shot out from his eyes. A powerful dragon's might covered the area below. "Huh!" Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the sudden words. Then, a funny expression appeared on his face. "What?" The faces of the disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy changed slightly when they heard Song Li's words. Was this son of heaven of the true dragon going to subdue the Dragon King? "I'm not interested in following you." Wang Xian shook his head faintly and stared at him with a twinkle in his eyes. "Haha, everyone on Earth is calling you the leader of the true dragons. I would like to know what the others will think if I, the dragon god, subjugate the leader of the true dragons." Song Li seemed to have not heard Wang Xian's words as he laughed out loud. "You can fantasize about it yourself." Wang Xian looked at his arrogant expression and said faintly, Song Li squinted his eyes slightly. He extended his gigantic dragon head towards Wang Xian and a blast of air gushed out from his nose. "This is not up to you. Surrender or die." With the last sentence, he let out a furious roar. He crouched down and lifted his body up high. A wave of murderous aura gushed out in all directions. Hiss! The group of demigods trembled as they felt the terrifying killing intent. Li Qingtian stood up slowly from the side. With a wave of his arm, a golden halberd appeared in his hand. He stared at Wang Xian. Obviously, once Wang Xian refused, he would launch a fierce attack. This is bad. Upon seeing this scene, the faces of the people from Dragon Gate Academy changed drastically. They stared at the Dragon King with worry on their faces. Xiao Ran also clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with anger. "With just you." Wang Xian looked at Song Li, who was looking down at him from above. He retracted the smile on his face and asked indifferently, "Ha ha ha, are you not worthy? Then let me see your true dragon body. I wonder if your blood can temper my dragon body." When Song Li heard Wang Xian's words, he laughed out loud. When he knew that the Dragon King was in the Kingdom of Darkness, he already had a plan in mind. Either the Dragon King would submit to him or he would kill him. He wanted to see if the Dragon King's blood could help him improve a little. Unfortunately, this foolish Dragon King had to choose the latter. Lord Dragon God, a fellow who has not ignited the divine fire. Even if he has a dragon soul, I can still kill him. Leave it to me. Clang. The long halberd in Li Qingtian's hand trembled slightly. A sharp metallic sound resonated within a radius of tens of kilometers. The tip of his long halberd was emitting a little resplendent luster. The long halberd was slowly aimed at Wang Xian. Even though he knew that the Dragon King had killed a god with a wisp of divine fire back then, he was still very confident in his own strength. "You're really courting death." Wang Xian looked at them and shook his head slowly. "You're the one who said that our Lord Dragon God is courting death, right?" Wei Haoge stood at the side and said coldly. "You're courting death." Xiao Ran heard his words and swept his cold gaze over. TSK, you're the one who's courting death, Dean Xiao Ran. When your master dies, it'll be your turn. Wei Haoge raised his head slightly and looked at Xiao Ran. His eyes were sparkling. "Since you don't want to submit, then die." Li Qingtian waved the long halberd in his hand coldly and attacked Wang Xian directly. A golden glow seemed to be attacking from the center of the world. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, Ao Xingmu, who was standing beside Wang Xian, slowly raised his arm. The thorns wrapped around Li Qingtian in an instant, including the long halberd in his hand. Li Qingtian froze instantly. Waves of bright and sharp golden rays slashed towards the thorns, but there was no reaction at all. This shocked him greatly. What? Everyone around was stunned. Chapter 1934. 1934. One thought from 1934. Die. What? What is this situation? A low growl came from Li Qingtian's mouth. His eyes were wide open and his entire body was entangled by thorns. He used all his strength to struggle free, but the thorns wrapped around his body did not move at all. He widened his eyes in shock and stared at the creature in front of him that was attacking him. It was not uncommon for a plant-type demonic beast to be this kind of creature since Earth's spiritual energy had been restored. However, it was the creature that did not seem to have the slightest bit of power. It released a thorn with one hand and directly trapped it, making it unable to resist at all. Roar. He let out a frantic roar as his entire body blossomed with endless divine light. Behind him, a golden throne slowly appeared. "You think you can attack our Dragon King?" Ao Xingmu looked at the golden throne, his eyes filled with disdain. He moved his palm, and countless thorns directly wrapped around the golden throne that was dozens of kilometers in circumference behind him. In just an instant, the powerful divine kingdom that gave off an incomparably sharp aura was wrapped by thorns. The golden divine kingdom seemed to have turned into a plant-based divine kingdom. Moreover, the plant was dark red in color. It looked a little bloody and terrifying. At this moment, Li Qingtian was completely dumbfounded. "Sir." Behind them, the hundreds of silver-armored cultivators saw that their god was instantly trapped. Their faces changed greatly as they cried out involuntarily. How is this possible? What is that creature? How can he be so powerful? The creature next to the Dragon King. Exclamations came from the disciples of Skyfinger Mountain. They looked at Ao Xingmu, who was next to the Dragon King, with wide eyes, full of disbelief. When the members of Dragon Gate Academy saw this scene, their bodies trembled, and their eyes were full of excitement. What? In the Divine Storm Valley, Song Li's eyes were filled with shock as well. His gaze was fixed on Ao Xingmu. "I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful expert beside you, Dragon King." A hint of fear appeared in Song Li's eyes. His face turned gloomy as the wooden tube flickered. To be able to trap Li Qingtian in an instant, his strength was definitely not weaker than his. "Do you know that you are simply courting your own death?" Wang Xian raised his head and looked at Song Li, who was in the sky. His eyes revealed a faint coldness. Roar. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, Song Li let out an angry roar. The divine kingdom under his body erupted with gusts of wind. In the God of Storms Valley, the wind dragons formed by the wind attribute were circling around. "Dragon King, don't think that you can defeat me just because you have a powerful subordinate. I think you know the power of the divine dragon better than anyone else." He roared furiously at Wang Xian as a thought of retreating emerged in his mind. He glanced at Ao Xingmu with some apprehension as his dragon tail swayed. "You deserve it," Wang Xian said indifferently as he waved his arm gently at Song Li. Boom! All of a sudden, Song Li's dragon god body seemed to have lost control as he fell from the sky. Roar, what's going on? In an instant, Song Li's dragon eyes were filled with fear and panic. He suddenly felt that he couldn't control his body. He couldn't control his body at all. Bang! The powerful impact force caused him to fall heavily to the ground. His eyes were wide open and filled with fear. What did you do to me? What did you do to me? Song Li fell to the ground. He stared at Wang Xian and shouted with a heart-wrenching fear. I'm just taking your life. Wang Xian looked at his terrified and desperate look and said calmly, Buzz. After he finished speaking, Song Li reverted back to his human form. At this moment, he felt a vast and mighty force rushing toward his mind. This force was strangling his consciousness and his thoughts. No, no, get out of here. Get out of here. He revealed a terrified expression and roared with a ferocious expression. He was being possessed. He was being possessed. Ah, please, Dragon King, let me go. Please, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Song Li started rolling on the ground in pain as he begged Wang Xian for mercy. His face was filled with fear and despair. The Son of Heaven of the true dragon is merely the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven meant that he was the Son of Heaven. The so-called Son of Heaven of the true dragon was merely the son of the dragon god. In fact, they could not even be considered as the son of the divine dragon. Boom! As soon as Wang Xian's words left his mouth, Song Li's mind was filled with a rumbling sound. No! A miserable scream came out from his mouth. His body tensed up violently and gradually stiffened up. Crash! When his body stiffened up, his body turned into the body of the divine wind dragon once again. The incomparably huge body of the divine dragon lay there quietly. Wang Xian only had one thought. The Son of Heaven of the true dragon was dead. Gulp! When everyone around saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. The invincible Son of Heaven of the true dragon, Song Li, was killed so easily. In fact, they didn't even see the Dragon King make a move. They had no idea how Song Li died. The screams seemed to be filled with fear when he was alive. What was going on? How is this possible? How could Song Li die just like that? Li Qingtian, who was entangled, looked at this scene in shock. His body trembled and his voice was filled with fear. Pu. Suddenly, at this moment, he felt a terrifying thorn pierce through his body, causing his pupils to enlarge once again. Bang! The thorn retracted and his body slowly fell to the ground, his eyes wide open. He died with his eyes wide open. He had just recovered to the divine realm not too long ago. How could that Dragon King? No, how is this possible? This is impossible. At the back, the merfolk silver-armored cultivators from Skyfinger Mountain felt that the scene before them was a little crazy. Just now, the invincible dragon god had easily suppressed the two demonic beasts. In the end, he was killed by the Dragon King with a casual wave of his hand. Now that the Golden God had been killed so easily, how could the Dragon King's group be so terrifying? They couldn't believe it, and they couldn't help but retreat, their minds in a daze. A bunch of ants, Keek. Bhe looked at the people from Skyfinger Mountain. He waved his arm, and a black mist enveloped them. Run, they are devils, devils. Wei Hauge shouted with a face full of fear. He quickly turned around and fled. At this moment, his back was completely drenched, and his face was extremely pale from fright. Their Lord Dragon God was already so powerful, how could he be so easily destroyed? How could this be believed? Run, run, run. Skyfinger, the silver-armored cultivator, and the others ran for their lives as if they had seen a demon from the abyss. There were even a few people who fell to the ground in fear. Bzzz. However, the black fog covered them in an instant and they all fell to the ground. In an instant, there was no sign of life. Chapter 1935. 1935 Upgrade. Hiss. All the disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy took a deep breath when they saw this scene. They were extremely shocked when they saw the corpses on the ground and the dead golden-armored middle-aged god and the true dragon son of heaven, Song Li. Two such powerful existences didn't even have the chance to make a move in front of the Dragon King. They looked at the members of the Dragon Palace who were following the Dragon King. Their eyes sparkled and they were shocked. Could the subordinates of the 5 Dragon Kings also have the strength of the godly state? They pursed their lips and stared blankly. Roar! Roar! At this moment, a low roar of a dragon suddenly sounded. Everyone was slightly shocked and they quickly looked at the body of the wind god dragon. This is. When everyone saw the divine wind dragon slowly stand up, they were all shocked. That Song Li is not dead. He is not dead yet. A cry of surprise came from the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy. Wang Xian looked at the body of the divine wind dragon and revealed a faint smile on his face. Buzz. At this moment, the divine wind dragon moved slightly and his body began to change into a human form. When they saw the human form, their eyes widened in shock. The form of the divine wind dragon was exactly the same as the Dragon King. He walked quietly to the side of the Dragon King and stood there expressionlessly. Everyone took a deep breath when they saw this scene. What was going on? Even Xiao Ran was filled with shock when he saw the true dragon's body transform into his master's form. Buzz. At this moment, Wang Xian waved his arm and the kingdom of dragon appeared in front of him. He then proceeded to devour Li Qingtian and Song Li's divine kingdom. Buzz. Buzz. In an instant, the metal and wind attributes' divine kingdoms entered the Dragon Palace. A large number of treasures were immediately separated from the divine kingdom. Following that, the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom devoured the corpses of Li Qingtian and the 2 demonic beasts. Their corpses immediately turned into thick dragon blood that flowed into the dragon transformation pool. The dragon blood that the 3 gods had turned into could at least allow 3 to 4 members of the Dragon Palace to possess the combat strength of a god. As for the resources in the divine kingdom, Wang Xian took a look and found that it was sufficient to increase his strength. After the upgrade, his level would reach the level of a demigod level 9. By then, he would possess the strength of 4 wisps of divine fire god. These dark dens are the same as the divine kingdom. However, the Dragon Palace has already devoured the divine kingdom of darkness. These should be able to be converted into materials. There is also this incomparably huge divine kingdom of darkness. The Dragon Palace should be able to devour it as well. Wang Xian thought to himself. He controlled the divine kingdom of darkness to devour the 2 dark dens of Yarrow Xie. In addition, there was also the nest of Yarrow Xie that Ao Chitian had just killed. Continue. Seeing that the 3 nests were successfully devoured, Wang Xian controlled the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom to devour the surrounding Dark Kingdom. Without the demonic nest, the Dark Kingdom was completely ownerless. After the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom was devoured, the entire Dark Kingdom trembled and disappeared at a terrifying speed. What's going on? All the disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy watched this scene in a daze. They stood behind Dean Xiaoran. Roar! 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 Hair! Just as the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom was devouring the demonic nest and the Dark Divine Kingdom, Wang Xian suddenly felt a strange movement coming from the Dragon Palace. He was slightly stunned. He calmed his heart and tried to sense the situation in the Dragon Palace. Roar! 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 At this moment, an extremely excited voice resonated in the Dragon Palace, attracting the attention of everyone in the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui and a few leaders looked at Ao Crab with slight astonishment. Ao Crab was a rather special existence in the Dragon Palace. Ever since Wang Xian subdued him, Ao Crab's sense of existence was not very strong. His strength was not very strong. Currently, he only had the strength of a demigod at the 7th level. There were 30,000 to 40,000 small crabs hidden in his stomach. Currently, these crabs had all reached the insightful emptiness realm. However, this was nothing to the Dragon Palace. However, at this moment, when Ao Crab sensed the evil caves and the Dark Divine Kingdom, it let out an excited roar. Its eyes shone as it flew toward the dark caves and the Divine Kingdom. Because the Dragon Palace had absorbed the Dark Divine Kingdom, these caves and the Divine Kingdom were only sent to the Dragon Palace as materials. Ao Crab looked at these materials and pounced on them excitedly. His 5 to 6 meter-sized body was directly swallowed up. At the same time, Small crabs of the void interpretation level that were 2 to 3 meters in size crawled out from his body. These small crabs were also like cats that had smelled the fishy smell as they devoured the dark nests. Heh! Wang Xian felt this scene and his eyes sparkled. He did not stop the Ao crab from devouring the dark lair. Instead, he watched quietly. Roar! Roar! When the Ao crab devoured the dark lair for only a minute, he raised his head and let out a roar. His strength, which was originally at the level of a demigod, was now at the level of a demigod. Devouring, continue. Time passed slowly. When a dark lair was devoured by him and a group of little crabs, his strength had already reached the peak of a demigod. As for the rest of the small crabs, they had also reached the demigod level. Such a terrifying speed of improvement shocked everyone. Awoo! The Ao crab continued to devour the other 2 dark nest. Hiss! Seeing how the Ao crab and the group of small crabs were improving at such a fast speed, Wang Xian's eyes revealed a look of astonishment. This kind of improvement is somewhat similar to the bug race. His eyes sparkled. The reason why the bug race was so powerful and invincible was because of their terrifying improvement speed. If the bug race was placed on a planet, they would be able to devour all the energy of the entire planet within a few days. The abilities of Ao crab and the rest were exactly the same as the dragon's. The dark lair was formed from all kinds of powerful materials. To the bug race, it was simply a huge treasure trove. Devouring a divine kingdom could greatly improve it. Boom! In the Dragon Palace, more than 20 minutes later, a vibration was heard. Ao crab was about to ignite the divine fire. Before the second dark lair was completely devoured, he had already started to ignite the divine fire. This terrifying improvement made Prime Minister Gui and the others dumbfounded. Buzz! At this moment, the dark divine kingdom next to Ao crab slowly floated in the sky above him. It was a ready-made kingdom of God that was raised high up in the sky. Around it, the crabs were prostrating themselves and worshipping their god. I didn't expect Ao crab to undergo such a transformation. It seems like I have to let him come over. Wang Xian looked at the scene of becoming a god in the Dragon Palace as his eyes sparkled. The harvest this time was a huge boost to the Dragon Palace. At least 3 to 4 more members with the combat strength of the godly state could be added. Chapter 1936. 1936 Upgrade. Ao crab's mutation and upgrade, the corpses of 4 godly state experts, and a huge amount of resources. Wang Xian did not expect to gain such a huge harvest from this attack on the ancient land of darkness. Let's go. He looked at the surrounding disciples of the Dragon Palace and Xiao Ran and the rest as he said faintly, "It's Master." Xiao Ran nodded immediately. The surrounding disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy also came to their senses and bowed slightly. They scanned their surroundings, their eyes filled with surprise. Just a moment ago, they were still inside the Dark Divine Kingdom, but now, the entire Dark Divine Kingdom had disappeared, making them extremely shocked. Everyone present had a new understanding of the Dragon King. Invincible. True invincibility. Even the gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace did not think so after witnessing the current Dragon King. Perhaps even the gods of the Lingxiao treasured palace were not a match for the Dragon King. Buzz. Wang Xian waved his arm and instantly arrived in front of the villa in Jiang City. Chitian, go and call Ao Crab and the members of the Dragon Palace who have the strength of the godly state over. He said to Ao Chitian directly. It's the Dragon King. Ao Chitian nodded and rushed into the Dragon Palace immediately. It's time to raise my strength. Wang Xian looked at the resources in his interspatial ring and smiled. It had been less than a year since he came to Earth, yet he was able to raise his strength by 1 level. This was something he had never expected. He took out the elixirs in his interspatial ring as well as other resources that could be converted into dragon energy and poured them into his mouth. Sitting cross-legged at the top of the villa, Wang Xian was digesting all sorts of resources in large mouthfuls. Boom! When the various resources were almost depleted, a powerful pressure was emitted from his body. Roar! Wang Xian let out a low roar and transformed into his dragon form. His body gradually grew bigger. The 7-colored radiance looked vibrant even in the dark night. The tough dragon scales and the majestic dragon head emitted a terrifying pressure. Wang Xian used the perspective of the divine wind dragon avatar to observe his divine dragon body. Compared to the divine wind dragon body that was more than 2,000 meters long condensed by Song Li, Wang Xian's dragon body that was more than 5,000 meters long was more majestic and sacred. After all, as an existence with 7 attributes merged into one, his current form had already surpassed the previous divine dragon race. Ding! Congratulations on your upgrade. Name, Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level 9 Longevity, the 4th transformation of the Divine Dragon Transformation. Divine Crystal, 133542150000000. Divine Ability, Ruling the Water Tribe below one's level. Devouring creatures to extract divine crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Divine Ability, Soul Absorbing, Spirit Attaching, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Dragon Eyes. Aspect, 5 Elements Great Mill, Dragon Kingdom in the palm, Dragon Head under the sky, Dragon Body of 10,000 miles, Yin-Yang Poles, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Arms Bowl, Divine Dragon Tail Swing. Domain, Divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom. Dragon Palace, Level 5. Members of Dragon Palace, 25433. Just one more step and I'll be able to light the fire. Wang Xian looked at his own attributes, eyes flashing luster. After upgrading his strength will be comparable to the 4 wisps of Divine Fire God. And doppelgangers. He looked at the avatar of the dragon beside him. Having a doppelganger is a very strange feeling. This doppelganger every move, he can control. It was as if he had split his thoughts into 2 halves. The clone was him, and he was also the clone. The upgrade of the clone also requires some dragon chi. If it wasn't for Song Li who was courting death. Wang Xian sensed the strength of the clone and shook his head slightly. The clone only possessed the wind attribute. Naturally, it couldn't be as overpowered as Wang Xian. However, it was comparable to an ordinary god of 3 wisps of divine fire. Wang Xian had originally planned to let the group of true dragon sons of heaven improve a little. After all, as fallen gods, they could improve their strength very quickly. Unfortunately, Song Li was courting death. He could only take his life. Although the improvement of the doppelganger consumed a lot of resources, one doppelganger was equivalent to 1 life after all. Even if he was killed and didn't need the revival of the Dragon Palace, he could still continue to survive as a doppelganger. In a certain sense, there wasn't much difference between the doppelganger and the main body. Rumble. At this moment, a mournful cry came from the west. Wang Xian squinted his eyes slightly. TSK, 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 you bunch of trash from the pyramid still want to attack our dark divine kingdom? You're courting death. A voice filled with brutality and violence resounded through the entire world. This voice caused countless people's faces to reveal expressions of shock in the dark night. However, compared to the past, the people on earth had clearly adapted a lot. However, the sorrowful wails of heaven and earth still caused quite a stir. Another god has fallen. Hiss, now even gods aren't safe. A group of gods from the pyramid faction? This tyrannical voice sounds so familiar. It seems to be that youth with the darkness attribute who obtained the dragon soul. Everyone was discussing. In the sky above a dark ancient land in the west, a 3-kilometer-long gigantic demonic dragon was swaying its savage face as it stared at the 4 figures in front of it in a bloody manner. Beside the demonic dragon, 5 demonic beasts that were similarly emitting a terrifying and sinister aura were staring at the 4 wretched figures. Damn it, that devil dragon is from the Dark Association. He actually obtained the dragon soul and ordered a group of sinister-looking figures. The expressions of the 4 pyramid gods changed as they stared at the devil dragon and the group of sinister-looking figures. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Not only had their pyramid faction lost their gods, but they had also lost 2 of them. One of them was in the god country of darkness, so it didn't cause any changes in the world. The fall of 2 gods was a huge blow to the pyramid faction. In particular, they were locked onto by 6 powerful god-level expert. Let's go back to the pyramid. We have a formation there, so they don't dare to rush over. A middle-aged man in the middle growled with a gloomy face and immediately turned around to escape. You want to escape? Ho ho, I said it back then. You guys are useless. The demonic dragon's wild laughter rang out, causing the 4 gods of the pyramid faction to look extremely embarrassed. He, it seems that this fellow is doing the best among the true dragon's sons of heaven. Wang Xian's mind moved slightly. He looked at everything in front of him with the demonic dragon's perspective. A faint smile appeared on his face. Let's keep going. One day, this Earth will be the same as the previous Earth. It will belong to the same era. Wang Xian smiled faintly as a strong sense of confidence shot out from his eyes. That era would be the era that everyone was familiar with, the era of the Dragon King. At the same time, Ao Chitian, Ao Yarrow, Ao Crab, Mu Zesen, and Ao Feng Huang, the leader of the Mount Division, appeared at the entrance where Earth was connected to the Transcendence continent. The leaders of the Dragon Palace arrived one after another. Chapter 1937. 1937 Templar 1937. Greetings, Dragon King. At the top of the villa in Jiang City, Ao Yarrow, Mu Zesen, and the others appeared in front of Wang Xian and greeted him respectfully. At this moment, each of them was exuding a powerful aura and confidence. Wang Xian sized up Ao Crab, who was standing in the middle. His eyes were sparkling. He was clad in khaki armor. He was 2 meters tall and had 8 arms. This was his human form. When he reached the godly state, he would have the ability to transform. However, it was clear that Ao Crab looked a little fierce after his transformation. Dragon King. When he saw Wang Xian sizing him up, Ao Crab grinned and revealed rows of sharp teeth. Not bad. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. His face was filled with satisfaction. Ao Crab's improvement this time had exceeded his expectations. There were 2 existences in the Dragon Palace who had ignited the divine fire. One of them was Ao Xingmu, and the other was Ao Crab. Ao Crab's strength was much weaker compared to Ao Xingmu. Currently, he could only fight 1 level above him. However, there were about 30,000 little crabs in his body. These little crabs had the strength of a level 4 demigod. The little crabs also had the strength to fight above their level and could fight against a rank 5 demigod. At this moment, in the Dragon Palace, except for Prime Minister Gui and Ao Yecha, who had the combat strength of a deity, who did not come, everyone else had come, including the clones. There were a total of 11 experts with the combat strength of a deity. Chitian, take Ao Crab and the others to that place in the dark ancient land. Ao Crab, put the divine kingdom there. You guys stay there for the time being. Ao Yarrow, go familiarize yourself with the current Earth. Also, enter some of the ancient lands of darkness and check out the strength of the demons in these ancient lands of darkness. Be careful. Wang Xian ordered Ao Chitian and Ao Yarrow. It's the Dragon King. The leaders of the Dragon Palace nodded and left in an instant. Currently, there are 13 ancient lands of darkness in various parts of the Earth. One of them has been destroyed by the Soaring Heavens Treasured Palace, another one has been occupied by the demonic dragon, and another one has been destroyed by me. There are still 10 more. Wang Xian muttered in his heart. He had gained so much from destroying one ancient land of darkness. Naturally, he had to look at the rest of the ancient lands of darkness. However, Ji Lingfei had only told him some information about the ancient lands of darkness yesterday. He still needed Ao Yarrow to investigate other places. After returning to his room, Wang Xian took out his phone and took a look. The matter of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace and the Pyramid's 2 major forces battling the ancient lands of darkness had already spread like wildfire. Especially the matter of the Pyramid gods being chased by the powerful Yarrow Xie within the ancient lands of darkness, it caused everyone to be extremely shocked. The entire internet was discussing this matter. At the same time, when people learned that the devil dragon was a true dragon's son of heaven, they were also extremely shocked. Towards a true dragon's son of heaven and Yarrow Xie's group, everyone's expressions didn't look good. At the same time, everyone witnessed the true dragon's son of heaven's strength. His terrifying divine dragon body had the strength to easily fight against opponents of a higher level. That demonic dragon is so terrifying, Even the Dragon King can't compare to it, right? After all, the Dragon King hasn't ignited the divine fire yet. As true dragon's son of heaven, he should be much weaker. The Dragon King probably needs to ignite the divine fire to be comparable to it. Unfortunately, igniting the divine fire to lift up the divine kingdom is too difficult. Are the other 8 sons of heaven of the true dragons so terrifying? They have also ignited the divine fire. The appearance of the demonic dragon caused many people to discuss about the sons of heaven of the true dragons. Naturally, as the Dragon King of Earth, he received a lot of attention. However, when everyone witnessed the terror of the demonic dragon and compared to the Dragon King, they had to admit that the Dragon King seemed to be at least a level lower than them. The fact that he didn't ignite the divine fire was a serious injury. Wang Xian looked at the comments on the internet and revealed a smile. Perhaps they didn't know that the true dragon son of heaven, Song Li, had already fallen. Furthermore, it was just a small thought of his. Next, I'll prepare to attack the ancient lands of darkness one by one and let Aohe take control of them. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and walked into the room to rest. More than 100,000 years ago, some of those fellows from the Association of Darkness were resurrected and even obtained the dragon soul. The few people from the Pyramid faction are in trouble. Now that the powerhouses have died one after another, it will be even more dangerous. At this moment, in the soaring heavens treasured palace, more than 10 figures appeared in the sky. Their eyes flickered as they scanned the planet below. Looking at the Earth that was constantly changing, they frowned slightly. The Earth's change was so great that it had completely exceeded their expectations. The gods had returned, the true dragons son of heaven. Especially those true dragons son of heaven, now, even they were extremely troublesome to deal with. Not to mention the Dark Association that had just appeared, the instigator of that great battle 100,000 years ago. Have those true dragon sons of heaven contacted them? Are they willing to join us? A figure that was emitting golden divine light asked a god that looked like a young man. How could they agree? They've contacted a few true dragon sons of heaven. They want us to join them and give them enough resources to recover. At that time, they'll protect us. The young god said indifferently. Protect us. Hearing the young god's words, the eyes of the surrounding gods turned cold. Then, they slowly fell silent. This group of gods who had obtained dragon souls were all fallen gods. Their realms were stronger than all the gods present. Furthermore, they had obtained dragon souls. Naturally, they didn't put them in their eyes. Once they fully recovered their strength, perhaps even the Lingxiao treasured palace would be suppressed. The sacred hall has also felt the threat. Let's proceed with the alliance as soon as possible. A figure looked at the middle-aged man in the middle and said indifferently, I know. Master has already sent me a message. This matter is not a problem. We will join forces with the Sacred Hall. Within 5 years, as long as not all the true dragon sons of heaven join forces, we will not be afraid. I will go deal with the trivial matter of joining forces with the Sacred Hall first. As the middle-aged god spoke, his figure disappeared. Back then, the demonic beast that attacked our skyscraping treasured palace with 2 divine flames had a change in the divine kingdom. It has regained its vitality. It is suspected that the Dark Association has regained control over it. The process of attacking the ancient land of darkness has temporarily stopped. More than 10 figures around saw him disappear. They looked at each other before one of them continued. Those people from the Dark Association are able to communicate with Yao Xie. We really have to be careful. The other gods slowly nodded. The fall of the gods made them not have the domineering and invincible aura that they had when they first came to Earth. They even needed to unite with other forces to deal with the gods that were born on Earth, the son of heaven of the true dragon, and those Yao Xie. Junior sister, the matter between you and Sethi Hari has been confirmed. At this moment, the middle-aged god who had just left appeared behind a woman in a courtyard in the soaring heavens treasured palace. He spoke indifferently. When the woman heard his words, her body trembled. Chapter 1938. 1938 Huasea became a god in 1938. Senior brother, what if I don't want to? I don't dare to disobey master's orders. This matter isn't a bad thing for you. It's not a bad thing. Using my life as a bargaining chip isn't a bad thing. Junior sister, no matter what you say, this matter has already become a reality. Unless you can change Master's mind, otherwise, prepare yourself. In a courtyard within the soaring heavens treasured palace, the middle-aged man stood beside the woman. Their emotionless voices rang out within the room. At this point, their voices stopped. The woman was Ji Lingfei. At this moment, her expression was changing. Change her master's decision? She felt somewhat helpless. Her master would definitely not disregard the overall situation and interests just because of her disapproval. The greater the changes on Earth, the more excited the experts from the boundless starfield would be. The greater the changes, the greater their final gains would be. How could they change just because of her thoughts? If I can try to persuade the Dragon King to join forces with us, can I? Ji Lingfei bit her lips and said with some hope. Ally. Junior sister, do you think the Dragon King can match the Sacred Hall? Don't you understand the Dragon King's strength on Earth? If he didn't have the Dragon Soul, he would only be a mortal now. Even if he has the Dragon Soul, a Dragon King who hasn't ignited the divine fire, the middle-aged man smiled with slight contempt. The Dragon King's strength wasn't bad, but it also depended on who he was competing with. Not to mention their major factions, even the other true Dragon Sons of Heaven couldn't be compared to the Dragon King. How could the Lingxiao treasured palace take a liking to the Dragon King and ally with him? Also, junior sister, don't have any other thoughts, and don't make things difficult for senior brother, the middle-aged man said with a hint of warning in his tone. After he finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Hearing her senior brother's words, her face instantly turned pale. Although she could sense that the Dragon King was mysterious and extraordinary, and that his subordinates might also be extraordinary in strength, they could not be compared to the Holy Church after all. After all, the Dragon King had not lit the divine fire yet. Buzz buzz. At this moment, the sound of a mobile phone vibrating was heard. Ji Lingfei looked at the name on it, and her face was a little powerless. Jin Feng. The middle-aged god disappeared and reappeared in the Pantheon Pavilion. He shouted and a golden figure appeared. North God, what's the matter? The golden figure appeared and looked at the middle-aged man. Send someone to kill Xiao Ran. Don't send the disciples of the Lingxiao treasure palace, the middle-aged god said to Jin Feng. Kill Xiao Ran? Jin Feng frowned slightly. Xiao Ran's master has the combat strength of the god realm. If our Lingxiao treasured palace doesn't take action, we might have to pay a price. To avoid trouble, find someone to kill him, the middle-aged god confirmed to Jin Feng. Okay, I'll ask a few divine sons of the Lingxiao treasured palace to contact one or two gods and pay a price to kill Xiao Ran. Jin Feng nodded. He also knew that the alliance between the Lingxiao treasured palace and the Holy Church was basically confirmed. At this time, there couldn't be any problems with Ji Lingfei. As for killing Xiao Ran, it was also the best choice. Of course, Ji Lingfei absolutely couldn't know that it was the people of the Lingxiao treasured palace who acted, so she could only find other people. With the Dragon King's strength and power, only godly state experts would dare to kill his disciple. Sister, are you ready? In the Amazon rainforest, there was a green world. Giant trees that were 1,000 meters tall and more than 10 meters in diameter could be seen everywhere. All kinds of demon beasts that evolved because of the Earth's mutation were hunting in the forest. In the middle of the rainforest, two figures stood on two trees. The two figures were about 1.5 meters tall and wore cute clothes. They looked like two cute little lowly. I'm ready. Fortunately, Sister's Kingdom of God didn't fall. There are still huge resources inside. The two cute little girls were naturally Huara and Caia. After they returned to the Kingdom of God, having huge resources allowed their speed to increase rapidly. In just a short period of time, their strength had reached the peak of the demigod realm. Today, they were preparing to ignite the divine fire again. Alright, then let's ignite the divine fire again and lift up my god realms together, Seer said to Huara. Yes. Huara nodded. After we become gods, let's go look for that bad guy. Sia was stunned for a moment before she smiled and her body shook. Boom! A powerful aura was emitted from her body. Huara's small face also became serious as her body shook. A powerful pressure was emitted from their bodies. More than half of the trees in the Amazon rainforest bent their branches and bowed towards them. Logically speaking, when a person became a god and lifted a divine kingdom, it was also because of the special physiques of the two girls that they could lift a divine kingdom together. Whoosh! Whoosh! When their divine kingdom was held, the star grass above their heads also bloomed with a resplendent green light. Wang! Above their heads, a wisp of sacred flame slowly rose. The palm-sized star grass slowly grew in size the instant the divine flame lit up. Wang! At the bottom of the sea, an incomparably large divine kingdom slowly rose. A wisp of purple gas came from the east. The wood elemental god in the Amazon rainforest let out a joyful sound, congratulating the birth of a wood elemental god. Heaven and earth congratulated, flowers and trees chirped together. When the divine kingdom slowly rose, Huara and Sia's aura rose to its peak. Oh! Another person has become a god. A wood elemental god. What a majestic aura. Come, let's go take a look. The unification of earth and land caused a huge change in the position of the Fire God Palace. The Fire God Palace was 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers away from the Amazon rainforest. A few of the Fire God Palace's gods saw the change in heaven and earth and their eyes lit up. They immediately flew over. Someone has become a god. Let's go and take a look. Over 10,000 kilometers away, the two youths looked at each other and immediately teleported over. Some ordinary people also noticed the birth of a god in the Amazon rainforest, but they didn't dare to go over. They could only watch from afar. Buzz! Under the divine kingdom that was made up of divine trees, Huara and Sia experienced the baptism of the divine fire. Their bodies slowly grew larger, reaching a height of more than 1.6 meters. Their faces looked like 16 or 17-year-old girls. Below the two of them, countless trees were holding them. Around them, hundreds of flowers bloomed. Success! Slowly, they looked at each other and smiled. Chapter 1939. 1939 was injured. I've finally recovered some of my strength, but we're still a little too young. In the sky above the Amazon rainforest, Huara looked at her own body and was slightly dissatisfied. Her current appearance, which was that of a 16 or 17-year-old little girl, made her slightly unhappy. She was once a big girl. At least it's much better than a child's body. Sia did not care too much and her face was full of smiles. Wang Wang. At this moment, the two star grass on the divine kingdom moved slightly and flew towards them. Star, Chen, looks like your strength has increased a lot. Huara looked at the two star grass and smiled as she reached out to take one. BZZ. The two star grass trembled. They were dark green and filled with powerful life force. This time, they ignited the divine fire and improved the two star grass. Now, 2 stars could kill 2 divine fire god realm experts. Someone is coming. Suddenly, Sia looked to the side warily. With a wave of her arm, the divine kingdom appeared behind them. I didn't expect that 2 beauties would light the divine fire here and become gods. A rough voice was heard. Then, 3 figures covered in flames appeared in their line of sight. The leader was a middle-aged man. Flames were rising above his head, and his body was filled with a destructive aura. The throne of the Fire God Palace? Sia glanced at the 3 god realm experts of the Fire God Palace who had suddenly appeared. She squinted her eyes and said indifferently, "Ladies, you have sharp eyes. I'm Sui Xinhua of the Fire God Palace. Even in the Endless Star area, I'm a big force. I just sensed that you 2 ladies have lit the divine fire. I wonder if you 2 ladies are interested in joining us. We will create a divine seat for you 2 ladies in the palace." Sui Xinhua looked at Huara and Sia, his eyes sparkling. The 2 figures beside him also sized up Huara and Sia. If they remembered correctly, all the gods who had lit up the divine fire recently had no female gods, and they were such young and beautiful goddesses. The 2 girls in front of them looked to be 16 or 17 years old. Their bodies were spotlessly clean, and they were perfect goddesses. Even they couldn't help but take a few more glances at them. They even thought that they would eventually become god lovers with them in the future. Humph, I'm sorry, we're not interested in joining. Hura felt their gazes and snorted lightly as she said coldly. This group of stinky men, their gazes were all so wretched. Hihi, two beauties, I don't know if you have understood the recent situation on Earth. With the two of you having just ignited the divine fire, it's not very safe. Our fire god palace's strength is enough to protect the two of you and allow you to completely return to your former peak. Sui Shenhua frowned slightly and then continued with a smile. No need. Xia coldly shook her head and directly refused. Xia's refusal once again caused the smiles on the faces of the Fire God Palace's three people to completely disappear. Two beauties, why don't you go to our Fire God Palace and take a look before making a decision? Sui Shenhua was slightly unwilling to accept this and continued to invite them. There's no need. Sister, let's go. Hura glanced at them and rejected them with slight disdain. Boss, look at their divine kingdom. At this moment, the middle-aged man beside Sui Shenhua suddenly looked at the divine kingdom behind Hura and Xia and said with a face full of surprise. Oh! Sui Shenhua was slightly stunned. He looked over and then widened his eyes. A divine kingdom made of divine wood, this. Sui Shenhua's expression changed slightly as he sensed the massive aura coming from the wood elemental divine kingdom behind them. A hint of greed flashed in his eyes as he exchanged glances with the two people beside him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They moved and instantly appeared around Hura and surrounded her. Hey, what are you doing? When Xia saw their expressions, a cold expression appeared in her eyes. I want to invite the two beauties to sit in our Fire God Palace. Sui Shenhua narrowed his eyes and said to them. I think you are courting death. Hura looked at the three of them surrounding them. She, who had a bad temper, stared at them with a cold expression and shouted loudly. Hee, two beauties, Earth is dangerous. I advise you to join our Fire God Palace, or else. The middle-aged man on the right laughed as he stared at Hura and Xia, his eyes flashing with lust and greed. The other two middle-aged men laughed. They looked at the divine kingdom built by the divine tree behind them, their eyes burning with passion. Building a divine kingdom with the divine tree was such a luxury. In the universe, the strong ruled. It was normal to kill and steal. When they sensed the vastness of the divine kingdom, they made a decision in their hearts. Facing the two gods who had just lit the divine fire, even if they were once fallen gods, with their strength, they could easily take them down. Just nice, we'll use you to test our strength. Xia looked at the greed in their eyes, and a trace of killing intent appeared in her eyes. She and Hua looked at each other. Wang. The two of them did not hesitate at all. Although they were once the little princesses of their families, after experiencing that great battle, they also knew the cruelty of the universe. They were not afraid of fighting and killing. Wang. Just as they were about to make a move, with a thought, the star grass above their heads trembled slightly, and as if it was tearing through the void, it attacked the two middle-aged men from the Fire God Palace. Pu. The two gods from the Fire God Palace were slightly startled when the star grass appeared in front of them. Oh no, I was careless. Their expressions changed drastically, and they instantly felt their breathing stop. They had already ignited two wisps of divine fire. In their opinion, there was no need to use all of their strength when facing two girls who had just ignited divine fire, not to mention that there was a god beside them who had ignited 3 wisps of divine fire. However, it was already too late. Pu. Two piercing sounds rang out, and they felt the life force in their bodies instantly dissipate. Peng peng. In an instant, their eyes widened, and their corpses directly fell downwards. What? How is this possible? You. At this moment, Sui Shenhua's expression changed drastically, and his eyes slowly turned blood red. A violent power of fire emanated from his body, and the terrifying pressure caused the surrounding trees to quickly wither. I want you all to die. An incomparably violent voice came out of his mouth, and the position of God of the 3 wisps of divine fire was revealed without a doubt. Not good. Hura and Xia felt its powerful might, and their expressions changed slightly. Tree world. The two of them waved their arms, and countless towering trees directly attacked Swaitian fire. Chapter 1940. 1940 was injured. Boom. 2 fellows who have just ignited the divine fire dare to kill my people and the people of our fire god palace. I will capture you and make you slaves. Violent flames rose up in the Amazon rainforest. The destructive attack directly caused all the trees that were attacking the fire god palace to explode. Whoosh. At this moment, 2-star grass attacked him at a terrifying speed. Roar, they want to ambush me. Swaitian Hua looked at the star grass in front of him, his eyes bloodshot. They had never imagined that these 2 women, who had just ignited their divine flames, would possess such a terrifying weapon. The 2 strange grass instantly killed 2 gods. Boom. Swaitian Hua's expression was incomparably berserk. He extended his arm, and a flame shield appeared in his hand, striking directly at the stellar grass. The enormous collision caused the 2 stellar grass to curl up and fly backwards. Wong wong. They let out a mournful cry and returned to Hua's head. Not good, sister. We aren't his match. Hua's expression changed drastically as she said to Seer in panic. Mu Zong. Seer gritted her teeth as the trees within a 1,000-kilometer radius flew up and smashed towards the flame. Go. The 2 looked at each other and quickly entered the divine kingdom, directly entering the underground. Don't even think about escaping. A violent roar sounded. The moment they entered the underground, a fireball that was like a meteorite landed on them. Pu. Hua, who was in the kingdom of God, spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face turned pale. Why, just you wait. I'll beat you to death in the future. Hua roared angrily. Control the kingdom of God and avoid his pursuit. Seer said quickly. Yes, sister. Hua became serious and quickly controlled the kingdom of God to escape into the distance. Boom. 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 At this moment, from the sky, sounds of extremely violent attacks came from above. Hua and Seer's faces trembled as they continuously spat out blood. Bzzz. Bzzz. The entire kingdom of God released a powerful life force to resist the burning flames. Damn it, you 2 little girls, get out here. In the sky, Swaitian Hua roared furiously. His attacks were like meteors falling from the sky. At this moment, he could no longer sense Seer's aura. This made him extremely furious. Hiss. Those 2 girls are so powerful. They actually ambushed and killed 2 godly state experts of the Fire God Palace in an instant. That expert of the Fire God Palace has already ignited 3 wisps of divine fire. He's much stronger than us. At this moment, thousands of kilometers away, 2 young gods were looking at this scene with faces full of shock. However, those 2 goddesses who have just ignited the divine fire are so beautiful. This is a true goddess. If I had such a divine companion, how many would it be? A young god's eyes flickered as he spoke. Just think about it. The other party's strength is much stronger than yours. The other smiled faintly and said, Oh. Suddenly, the 2 young gods who were conversing moved slightly and hurriedly looked forward. In their line of sight, the 2 women who had fought with the Fire God Palace were 4,000 to 5,000 meters in front of them. The 2 of them were obviously injured. A hero saving a damsel in distress? They looked at each other, and a burning look flashed across their eyes. Their hearts moved, and they immediately flew toward Hua Seer. Who is it? Hua Seer sensed a strange aura, and she immediately looked back cautiously. Don't worry, beautiful ladies. We mean no harm. I'm Shui Xiaoyuan. I'm Chang Yangxia. A burning look flashed across Shui Xiaoyuan's and Chang Yangxia's eyes. They cupped their hands and showed a smile that they thought was kind. We were attracted by the battle here. With our strength, we are no match for the 2 ladies. Besides, we are not from the Fire God Palace. The 2 of them said with a smile. Hua and Seer glanced at them warily. Their eyes were still cold. Ladies, why don't I bring you 2 to a safe place to recover? It's not too safe around here. Shui Xiaoyuan saw their wary expressions and said with a smile. Don't even think about escaping. At this moment, a violent and majestic roar suddenly came from behind, causing Hua Seer's expression to change slightly. All right. The two of them looked at each other and immediately nodded. They could sense the other party's strength. With the power of the stargrass, they were completely capable of killing the other party. They were not afraid that the other party would have any ill intentions. All right, then two ladies, let's go to our divine mountain and hide for a while. Shui Xiaoyuan and Chang Yangxia's eyes lit up with joy. With a wave of their arms, the four of them instantly disappeared. Eastern, True Spirit Sect. When the two of them brought them to the east, Huara and Seer looked at each other and at the divine mountain in front of them. True Spirit Sect is a small faction that I've casually established. This mountain belongs to the divine mountain. Whether it's cultivation or recovery, it's more than 10 times faster than the outside world. The two beauties can rest in peace here. We've set up a formation here. Ordinary gods can't break in, Shui Xiaoyuan said with a smile. Thank you. We need to recover from our injuries now, Seer said with a faint nod. Come, two ladies. You can cultivate on the peak of the mountain. Shui Xiaoyuan smiled and brought them to the peak of the mountain. Thank you. I hope that you will not disturb us for the time being. We will repay you when we recover, Seer responded to them. No need, no need. You can tell us directly if you need anything. Shui Xiaoyuan shook his head with a smile. Huara and Seer looked at each other and sat cross-legged on the peak of the mountain. A green light barrier enveloped them. Shui Xiaoyuan and Chang Yangxia looked at each other and went straight to one of the peaks of the divine mountain. TSK, can we be considered lucky in love? Haha. After entering the room, Chang Yangxia could not help but laugh. His eyes sparkled. This pair of sisters are really beautiful. The other party is so strong just after igniting the divine fire. His realm must have been very high before he died. Let's not talk about anything else now. If we can keep him with us, the four of us working together will have a stronger trump card. Shui Xiaoyuan narrowed his eyes slightly and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. It's a combination of men and women. Isn't it tiring to work? Ha ha ha. Chang Yangxia laughed loudly when he heard his words. It would be great if we could completely control them. Suddenly, Shui Xiaoyuan said something. Chang Yangxia was slightly stunned. He rolled his eyes and slowly shook his head. After all, the other party is a god, and she's so powerful. Lord Water God, the first divine son of Lingxiao Palace, is here to pay his respect. Chapter 1941. 1941 Xiao Rant's death in 1941. The number one divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace. Shui Xiaoyuan and Chang Yangxia were slightly stunned when they heard the report from their subordinates outside. Why is the number one divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace looking for you? Chang Yangxia looked at Shui Xiaoyuan and asked with a slight frown. I don't know. Last time, they wanted to recruit me, but I directly rejected them. Hihi, the strongest person in the Lingxiao treasured palace only lit 5 wisps of divine fire, and they actually want me to bow down to them. Shui Xiaoyuan said coldly. Let him in. He sent a voice transmission to the outside. Yes. Greetings, Lord Water God. A few minutes later, a dignified man walked over, cupped his hands, and looked at Chang Yangxia, who was slightly stunned, and said respectfully. You came to find me on behalf of the Lingxiao treasured palace? Shui Xiaoyuan sat on the chair and asked the young man directly. Yes, this is the information of our Lord Golden God. Please take a look. The first divine son nodded respectfully and handed over an item. Shui Xiaoyuan took it and was slightly stunned when he heard the information inside. You asked me to kill the disciple of the Dragon King, Xiao Ran. Interesting. A disciple of the Son of Heaven of the True Dragon. This reward is not bad. Shui Xiaoyuan was slightly stunned when he saw the information inside. However, killing the disciple of the Dragon King will make the Dragon King a mortal enemy. It's not worth it, he said faintly and shook his head. Although the Dragon King did not ignite the divine fire, his current strength was not much weaker than his. It was not worth it to fight to the death for some treasures. After all, a son of heaven of a true dragon still had to be taken seriously, even if the other party was the only one who did not ignite the divine fire. Lord Water God can completely act in secret. If he kills a mortal, then the chances of the Dragon King knowing will be very, very small. The first divine son frowned slightly when he heard his words and said from the side. If the water god in front of him refused, he didn't even know which deity realm expert he should look for. The first divine clan's eldest young master he looked for was directly rejected, and now he was actually rejected. He was just a dragon king who had yet to ignite the divine fire. What was there to be afraid of? If your Lingxiao treasured palace can take out 2 soul-binding pearls, then we will agree. At that time, Water God and I will attack together and we will definitely kill Xiao Ran. Suddenly, Chang Yangxia, who was sitting at the side, stood up and said with a twinkle in his eyes. Hey! Shui Xiaoyuan was slightly stunned when he heard him speak, and then his eyes shone. That's right. As long as you can take out 2 soul-binding pearls, we will kill even the disciples of the other true dragon son of heaven. Shui Xiaoyuan also stood up and stared at the first divine son. Soul-binding pearls? The first divine son was slightly stunned. I will report to our Lord God now. Okay, report immediately. We only have one condition. Shui Xiaoyuan waved his hand, and the first divine son was directly teleported outside. If we can get the soul-binding pearl, we can. Seeing the first divine son disappear, Chang Yangxia growled with some excitement in his eyes. As long as we get the soul-binding pearl, we'll have a chance to completely subdue those 2 beauties. Shui Xiaoyuan was also excited. The soul-binding pearl could bind a person's body. It was a great threat even to godly state experts. Although it was not 100% binding, it was a very good weapon to subdue subordinates and other gods. With the soul-binding pearl and some of their methods, they were confident that they could subdue those 2 ladies. For this, so what if they offended the Dragon King? He did not dare to offend them alone, but with Chang Yangxia joining in, with their combined strength, the Dragon King might not be their match. Moreover, the 2 women were with them now. Even if they did not subdue them, if the Dragon King came to take revenge, it should not be a problem to ask the 2 women to help them kill the Dragon King. The danger was not great. It was totally worth the risk. The reward just now was not worth it for them. The soul-binding bead was totally worth it. The 2 looked at each other and looked outside. Their eyes were shining. My lords, the god of the Lingxiao treasure hall has agreed to your conditions. The 2 soul-binding beads will be delivered soon. Not long after, the first divine son of the Lingxiao treasure hall walked in and said, Okay, we will kill Xiao Ran within 10 hours after we receive the soul-binding bead. A smile flashed across Shui Xiaoyuan's eyes as he immediately said, Yes. The first divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace nodded and left with cupped hands. Haha, now we have to think of a way to put the soul-binding bead into their bodies. It seems that we have to gain the other party's trust. The 2 of them looked at each other and could not help but laugh. Sister, those 2 guys don't look like good people either. Mother used to say that men are all bad. It seems like it's true. At this moment, at the top of the divine mountain, Hua said to her sister, If you're trying to curry favor for no reason, you're either evil or stealing. After we recover, let's go find him directly. Yeah, that bad guy is not bad. The 2 of them conversed and slowly closed their eyes. Little did they know that they had been schemed against. What's wrong with your brother? His eyes are a little red and he's still in a trance. The next morning, in Jiang City, Wang Xian was eating his breakfast calmly. He glanced at Xiao Ran who had left early and asked Liu Mengxin. Teacher, my brother is heartbroken. Liu Mengxin looked at her brother's back and said in a low voice, I don't know why, but Sister Ji Lingfei didn't come back after she went to the Lingxiao Palace. After my brother called her yesterday, he was in a daze. Heartbroken? Wang Xian was slightly stunned. He raised his eyebrows and said, Shouldn't she be? Isn't Ji Lingfei interested in Xiao Ran? In the beginning, she was the one who followed Xiao Ran willingly. I don't know either. Sister Ji Lingfei probably wouldn't, but... Liu Mengxin frowned with a distressed expression. Wang Xian's gaze flickered slightly. He looked in the direction of the Lingxiao Palace and didn't say anything. Naturally, it was better for them to settle the matter of their disciples themselves. Sigh. At this moment, Xiao Ran, who had teleported to the central office of Longmen Academy, sighed silently. He looked at everything in the room and at the now empty table. His body trembled. He quietly walked over and slowly landed on the table. He touched everything on the table and closed his eyes slightly. This is that Xiao Ran? There should be no mistake. Chop off his head. At this moment, two voices suddenly sounded in the room. Xiao suddenly opened his eyes, but just then, he saw a palm chopping towards his head. Chapter 1942. 1942 1942 Slaughter of Gods and Extermination of Sects 1. In the quiet office of Longmen Academy, a piercing sound was heard. Xiao Ran widened his eyes. His pupils were filled with fear as he stared at the two figures in front of him. However, at this moment, time was frozen. Death was approaching. In just a split second, a head was removed. There aren't any traces left behind. Then the Dragon King shouldn't be able to find out what we did. Let's go. Shui Xiaoyuan glanced at the corpse on the ground indifferently. His figure moved, and the two disappeared. Soon, the two figures appeared in the void. They threw the head in their hands toward the first divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace. Mission accomplish. The two people said indifferently and disappeared in an instant. You want to lay your hands on Goddess Jilingfei? Don't you know your own strength and background? You really don't know death. If it weren't for the next thing, I would have killed you easily. The first divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace looked at the head in his hand. After confirming it, he casually threw it away. The head fell from tens of thousands of meters in the sky and directly fell into the ocean below. Dean. Not good. The Dean was killed. The Dean was killed. An hour later, an exclamation sounded in Longmen Academy. In the Dean's office of Longmen Academy, a group of disciples from Longmen Academy rushed over. When they saw the corpses in the room, their faces were filled with shock. Who dares to kill Dean Xiao? Dean Xiao is the disciple of the Dragon King. Dean Xiao was actually killed. Oh my God, immediately report to the Dragon King, immediately report to the Dragon King. Cries of surprise rang out from the disciples of Longmen Academy. The death of their dean was a huge blow to the entire Dragon Gate Academy. The news of Dean Xiao's death quickly spread to the entire Dragon Gate Academy. When all the students received the news, their faces were filled with shock. Dean Xiao was actually dead. The founder of the Dragon Gate Academy was actually assassinated in his office. All the students' faces turned pale as they discussed in fear. Boom. In the villa by the sea, Wang Xian was giving Liu Mengxian some pointers on cultivation matters at the top of the villa. When he received this news, his expression changed slightly. Teacher, what happened to you? Liu Mengxian sensed the drastic change in Wang Xian's aura and asked immediately. Let's go. Wang Xian's expression turned cold slowly. With a wave of his arm, he led Liu Mengxian directly to Xiao Ran's office. Huh! Ao Jian, who was standing at the side, felt Wang Xian's anger and was slightly shocked. His figure moved and followed behind. Buzz. Wang Xian's figure appeared in the office of Longmen Academy. Dragon King. Everyone was slightly shocked when they saw the Dragon King who appeared out of thin air. They quickly bowed. Dragon King, Xiao Ran. A Draconid said to Wang Xian with an extremely embarrassed expression. Ah, brother. At the side, when Liu Mengxian saw the corpse on the ground, her body staggered and tears flowed down instantly. She pounced over in grief. Wang Xian looked at the corpse on the ground and scanned his surroundings with his yin-yang and five elements dragon eyes. Other than two faint footprints, there were no other traces. All of you, get out. Wang Xian said to everyone in the room with a gloomy face. Yes, it's the Dragon King. The surrounding air was almost frozen. Everyone immediately nodded respectfully and walked outside. Woo, teacher, brother, he. Liu Mengxian was crying bitterly and her body was trembling. Wang Xian squatted down and patted her shoulder gently. Dragon King. At this moment, Ao Jian's figure appeared. Looking at the headless corpse on the ground, his expression changed slightly. Ao Jian, make a trip back to the Dragon Palace. Bring the soul-returning embryo from the ancestral tree and bring some resources over. Wang Xian's face was solemn as he ordered Ao Jian. It's the Dragon King. Ao Jian nodded immediately and disappeared. Mengxian, don't cry. Don't worry, I'm here. He patted the heartbroken Liu Mengxian and said gently, Teacher, brother, is there really any hope? Teacher, I beg you, sob sob. She looked at Wang Xian with a sob. No problem. Don't worry, I'm here. Wang Xian nodded at her and stood up slowly. He stared coldly at Xiao Ran's headless corpse. His eyes were filled with endless coldness. If it weren't for the two soul-returning fruits in the Dragon Palace, Xiao Ran wouldn't have been saved by the immortals and gods this time. He would definitely die. He wasn't a member of the Dragon Palace to begin with. If he died, it meant that he was dead. To be able to kill Xiao Ran in such a secretive manner, only peak-stage demigod and godly state experts can do it. Furthermore, I didn't even see any traces of the yin-yang and 5 elemental dragon eyes. He must be a godly state expert. 2 godly state experts came to assassinate a mortal? Wang Xian's eyes were extremely cold as he kept thinking. To be able to use a godly state expert to kill a mortal, how much hatred was this? Ever since he came to Earth, the only godly state experts that he had offended were the Pyramid faction. Now that the Pyramid faction was greatly weakened, it was impossible for them to send 2 gods to kill a mere disciple of his. However, if it had nothing to do with him, who would spend such a huge amount of effort to assassinate a mortal? Ji Lingfei? Ling Xiao Palace? Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Ji Lingfei had suddenly returned to Ling Xiao Palace, and now she was suddenly heartbroken. Was it the background behind Ji Lingfei? Ling Xiao Palace? Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. If it really is Ling Xiao Palace, just you wait. Wang Xian mumbled as he stood there and waited quietly. Liu Mengxian stood at the side with a lump in her throat. Time passed slowly. At this moment, the news of Xiao Ran's death on the internet had caused a huge sensation. Xiao Ran was the founder of the Dragon Gate Academy. Currently, the Dragon Gate Academy was the #1 academy in the world, the leader of all the academies. His only disciple, the Dragon King, had the Dragon King's backing. He could be considered to have a deep background. However, today, he was found dead in the Dragon Gate Academy by the disciples of the Dragon Gate Academy, and his head was beheaded. Dean Xiao Ran was actually assassinated. This is simply too terrifying. The founder of the Dragon Gate Academy was assassinated. Is the Dragon Gate Academy going to be finished? I don't know who did it, but they actually dared to kill the disciple of the Dragon King. With the rise of all the gods on earth and all the sons of heaven of the true dragons, there should be many people who dare to offend the Dragon King. After all, the Dragon King hasn't ignited the divine fire yet. Those who dare to assassinate the disciple of the Dragon King should not be afraid of the Dragon King. Countless people were talking about the assassination of Xiao Ran, and everyone was waiting for the Dragon King's reaction. There were all kinds of discussions on the internet, and all the disciples and students of the Dragon Gate Academy were in a state of panic. Dragon King, the soul-returning embryo is here, and there are also some resources. An hour later, Ao Jian returned.